You're listening to Musings with Morales, brought to you by Dialysis Education Services.
Welcome to Musings with Morales. I'm Morales. It is Wednesday, the 24th, and I'm really excited about the guests we have with us. Welcome to Nate and Kessiah Abaniel, good friends, colleagues in the industry. We've worked on a couple of projects together that I'm hoping we're going to really continue to push across the line. And a little bit later today, we're going to bring in an old friend and trusted colleague, Richard Vanderplas, who is a leader in the nephrology space. So looking forward to an exciting conversation tonight. We'll talk about healthcare, we'll talk about life, we'll talk about family and friendships. Again, welcome to the Abaniel family.
Thank you.
We've had the pleasure of meeting Kessiah before, actually a good friend, family, and through many discussions with Kessiah, I've heard about Nate, and she just said,
hopefully good discussions.
Yeah. It's my brother.
I hope, because I have kids, right?
Uh-huh.
I hope that I could hear my daughter talk about my son the way that she talks about you.
Okay.
Nate, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So, Kessiah, Nate Abaniel, thank you very much.
It's an honor.
Looking forward to the conversation, guys.
Yeah.
As always, I think, when I think about business, I'm going to go back to childhood, right? Like, business was business then too, right? It's like, hey, I got a problem. Like, who am I going to call to get my back, right? And I'm an only child. So,
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that could be a problem, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like I ran around with little crews and stuff, and there were times where nobody could handle it. I'll just say, like as a child, I remember one guy who used to ride around the block, and if you looked at him, he'd come and punch you in the gut. And I just didn't have anybody in my family or crew that could kick his ass.
So you
right?
had to do it yourself.
Well, eventually, but it took a while.
Yeah.
Took a couple beatings before.
Yeah, I had to
couple
build
gut
that
punches.
build that tolerance to pain to where I could actually give some back, right?
Yeah.
But when I think about business, I kind of think about it that way. It's like, who's going to have your back, and it's very logical to think that you guys are blood. You know what I mean? That you'll have each other's back, right? As I've grown as a business person, worked for people, worked for myself, employed people, I always look for that. When I'm trying to find my circles, is who's gonna have my back and whose back would I have, right? I don't know what I'm gonna paraphrase Conor McGregor, but
Okay.
I don't want to eat with anybody who I wouldn't die with.
Okay.
So it's great that you guys have that relationship and that you really edify younger brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Younger brother. All right. So tell us about yourself, because we'll get to you next, but
Yes,
we've heard
please.
your story before.
I'm excited.
Tell us
him.
about you, Nate.
Well, there's really not much to say. Hello, beautiful people. My name's Nate. Been in healthcare for a while. Have always, I guess, had the entrepreneurial spirit. I remember, like, my first job, which I got in trouble for at school, was I used to wake up before school and go and buy candy bars from the local store and just resell them.
I remember that.
Yeah, and then I ended up, I employed like a couple other knuckleheads after a while. Ended up getting caught. A whole like announcement over the loudspeaker: if you get caught selling anymore, you're expelled. But any which ways, yeah, I always had that spirit. And then so now, like you said, I'm just thankful to be working with my sister. It's like wealth, right? Assets built over time. So like that's kind of like what family is too, just like what you were saying with your friends too, which I'm sure some turn into family over time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like wealth, it's assets or just that time. So,
Well, what's the DNA as far you mentioned you've been working in healthcare for some time. What exactly?
The nursing sector, been mostly in behavioral health and psych.
And you're a registered nurse?
LVN.
Licensed vocational nurse.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a daughter who's also licensed vocational nurse. And like I said, there's actually some family connections here,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
especially
There's
with
a
my
lot
daughter,
of
right?
synergy.
But we found out you guys are like somehow related. On her mom's side, right? So
Yeah.
you'll meet her one day. Her name's
Okay.
Camila. She actually works in one of the businesses that I own. We're in the building right now. It's a dialysis education services, training techs and nurses
Oh, nice.
to perform dialysis, right?
Okay.
So, it's not a surprise to me that you've got that entrepreneurial spirit. I met Kessiah, how long ago? A year ago.
A year ago?
A little over a year ago, maybe.
About
Yeah,
a
we're
little.
going on the memorial of that year.
I know.
Very soon here.
Yeah.
At least as far as kind of that business transaction that
Yeah,
we
the
were working.
endeavor.
Yeah. But it turned out that I believe it's your guy's cousin, Ernest, who we had on the show before, right?
Yeah.
Known him for many years from the field as well, from nephrology, basically. Met him by chance on LinkedIn, which we're on LinkedIn, so hello
Oh,
to
I
the
didn't know
LinkedIn
that.
family.
That's
Yeah.
how you guys met?
Yeah.
Is you just cross paths on
Yeah,
on
he was
LinkedIn?
like, "Hey, you own a business. I'm pretty close to you. I'm starting my business." He was just starting his billing business.
Oh, I didn't know this.
And can I come by? And it was in here in this office. He was like, "Can I come by and show you my website and my pitch deck and all this stuff?" So like I was like, "Here, do this, do that." And
Hustle, hustle, hustle.
He was hustling.
he didn't
then.
need
Yeah.
any help, but he was looking for a voice to some critique or whatever, and we became good friends. And when I think about people in this world, Ernest is one of those guys that I could put my ugly face back on if I needed to.
Yeah.
Not this one, but I mean the inner ugly face, right? Like if he needed help and it involved me putting myself in danger, I'd be there for him. He's family, and I feel the same, that he would do the same for me. That's the extreme. But over the years, we've been able to do a lot of things together, help each other in our
Yeah.
businesses, support each other, sometimes give a shoulder to lean on, because business is like
and,
this,
and
right?
he's becoming that to me, just real quickly. Once I started my full entrepreneurial life, I realized, there's a lot of hustle. There's an ebb and flow. There's a lot
Yeah.
of valleys.
Yeah.
So you really celebrate the peaks. But he's an amazing dot connector.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
it's true. Like, he just gets it real quick. And he's like, this person would be good for Kessiah to meet. He even actually, on a personal note, he was like, Kessiah. So Nate, my brother here, he has, and sorry not to speak for you, I'm not going to be the older sister, sorry, or maybe a little, but mentorship is really important to him. So he has another business where he has like a give back model where he gives towards mentorship. And so Ernest knows this, and he reached out to me that year ago. And I think I might have texted you or in a meeting when we were doing that one venture.
Yep.
I was like, I think it would be good for you to meet Nate, my brother. And that was from Ernest. He was like, I think Michael would be a good kind of a mentor, and not in like this traditional like mentor mentee.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to surround yourself with people that, one, are doing it, that can elevate you, and that you can learn from.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like a little tidbit. And even, not just business, but from, like the heart sense and from the mentor sense, like he saw that, for Nate, with you guys. And it took a year, and not that this is a mentorship
Here
type
we
of
are.
thing, but here we
Here we
are.
are.
Here we are, it's just kind of like
You watched the
happens.
episode we had last night, and I met this brilliant research scientist, right? And we just had a good conversation when I met her. So we ended up doing the podcast. But in between meeting her and then doing the podcast, she had texted me. I was like, I'd love to get some mentorship. And I got to tell you, like, that's really weird to me, because, like, I don't feel like I'm anybody to be mentoring people. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I don't. But she explained it, and she was like, because she's a PhD, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I got an MHA, but, I'm like one of those bottom of the class people.
C's get degrees.
I'll say in my undergraduate, I was that one. When my graduate studies, I did really, really
He's like,
well.
hey, yeah.
But, like, I didn't take school so serious in my undergraduate at all. I kind of did it to do something, be out of the
get
house.
through.
Yeah, be out of the house was the thing. So she clarified, and she was like, just what you said, is like, we want to find people that we can put in our circle, or that we can get in their circle, or we can merge circles that, one, we're maybe aligned in what we're trying to achieve. We have the personalities that we can live with each other, because nobody wants to, like, for me, a prerequisite to wanting to work with somebody is like, can we get along?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's never a good thing
Yeah.
when you're working with somebody that you can't stand, right? because your creativity can't come out. You might be on edge or on your toes as far as wanting to have like healthy conflict because you already don't like the person. So
Yeah.
like, can you bring out
Yeah.
the beast in you?
So like that free flowing nature kind of gets stunted, right?
Yeah.
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 Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that fruit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Authenticity.
Some people call it
Same
butt
word.
hurt too, right? Like,
Yeah.
like can
Exactly.
I just say it like it is, right?
Yeah.
Because we had you on the podcast a while back.
Oh,
You
yeah.
were doing some really exciting things. I've been following you, and I'm just
Thank you.
like on a daily going like shit. Like there's some inspiration.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
man.
If I haven't told you that, like I gotta say that watching what you're doing, and that you haven't pulled off the pedal at all. As you said, ebb and flows. Like maybe that's Death Valley too, Paco. Like some people, some people when it's up, hey, happy. Let me go buy a
Oh.
Mercedes. Let me go, get a new pad, whatever. And then when it gets low and you're on your last dollar, like I don't have the nice car and I don't have and I'm not saying that's where you're at, but like the ebb and flows can be distracting. It's a lot of noise, right?
Yeah.
It's hard.
So I know that just through our personal ventures, that we've had some ebb and flows, right? Not between you and I, but just the environment, right?
100%.
So give me an update, because the last time we talked, you were really focused on ironing out the seams in overseas nurse deployment to solve some of the issues we have in this country, which cannot be fixed without people.
Our own people to that. Unless there's creative ways, which we talked about, but sorry, continue. Yeah.
Well, so at the time we were, what we were talking about was we've got this massive shortage in the United States, and without bringing people in that have the qualifications, we may not fix it. Right now, I come from a world of like nephrology, dialysis, and I'll just give you examples. We just had a great conversation on decentralizing healthcare and taking doctors and services home. We can't do that without people, and we're already short in in centralized type of organizations, right? We're already short in that environment.
Yeah.
Where are the people that are going to go home and give more frequent touch points going to come from?
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. Give me an update on that. And then, like I said, it's been inspiring because I see you adding to this catalog of what you guys can offer to really solve multiple. It's a hub with many spokes now.
Yeah. Gosh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of share, because I want to kind of touch on that, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that don't get this opportunity to speak into a microphone and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, So thank you, Michael. But so that original adventure it was a great experience. It was a great learning experience. I remember we had that discussion that one day where, remember, I was like about to walk away.
Yeah.
And if I can touch on that, if you don't
Absolutely.
mind.
Hey,
So
we're open mic here.
nice.
Hot mic.
Yeah, I was ready. I was ready to bail. I was ready. Like, I had been putting in a lot of sweat equity.
Yeah.
It wasn't my first time doing hard work in my life. It wasn't my first time being disappointed or overlooked. I was just really confused about the effort that I was putting in, because I had the vision, and what drove me was the passion. So what you probably see is, or I'm humbled that you're inspired, is I'm really passionate about helping the healthcare system, because I worked for the largest Fortune 500 companies that are in the health and wellness space. I led a lot of their big initiatives as an employee. They gave me good structure, but what I saw was that the patient wasn't being addressed, right? So I was like, oh, there's all these broken areas within the health system that I know very well, and we could talk about that or not. But to your question, at that moment when we were talking, Michael, and you reached out and you're like, hey, I want to have a conversation with you, I was literally about to just I'm done. I don't want to do this. I'm going to go back to flowers in corporate America. And you said this one poignant thing to me. And I was like, I don't know if you remember this, but I was like, Michael, I'm literally one step away from walking away. And you said, but also you're one step away from getting everything you want.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't have that perspective. And that ignited me to continue. And it was rough. I mean, I know that venture, you know, something good will come from it. But from that, Direct Fill, the company that my brother is also a part of, and I don't know if Tina has joined, is also a part of, from a sales perspective, what we really needed to do and what has happened is we articulated who we are and we dialed in on what that passion means to the marketplace. What do people need? So people need nurses. So what we did was we went through a branding session recently. We've had many discussions, and we identified like our verticals, right? So starting on that regard, we were like, okay, we're healthcare, we're also tech, because I have a very long background in like tech, AI. That's been my career. And then also education. There's an education component that's forthcoming, and then maybe we'll get into product and stuff like that. And so what has happened since then was the push to keep pushing. And so I had to really dial in on why am I doing this? And so I actually posted this on Instagram, not even thinking I would talk about this, but I wrote myself a letter. And I was like, I just want to write myself a letter as I'm starting out everything. And this was years ago, because this Direct Fill isn't my first go at being an entrepreneur. It actually started way back when with my brother, and I don't know if you remember, we painted rocks with our mom's nail polish, and we would go door to door, and we would like try to sell it for like 5 cents. And some people, they were like, okay, I'll buy it for 5 cents. But it was the ability to create an economy from your own effort.
Yeah.
And that was where the passion came from. So what's grown is, we have a small team. We have a really good business partnership with a company called eTeleconnect, which you're familiar with.
Shout out to Tuan.
Shout out to Tuan. He's been such a great partner. He sees the vision. He understands and resonates with the passion that we have in helping the healthcare system with staffing, as well as just overseas work, because there's just not enough people.
Have you visited his operation in the Philippines yet?
No, in Parañaque and Laguna.
My God.
I do want to visit.
Do you just want, so I work with Tuan, and actually we just had a person on that we worked together with just before you guys walked in. We worked through COVID in a very large operation, and this is a guy that I think is one of those people that you want in your circle. He's a good person. He is a master operator. A master operator, and
he doesn't sleep.
No,
Yeah.
that is actually true.
Yeah, because I know he's in the Philippines, and we'll send emails, and
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, it's like 3 a.m. right now.
Yeah, but I gotta say, like I walked into this organization, and I hadn't really been part of something that fast rose up. COVID hit us, and we had to answer the call.
Yeah.
Right. So we were doing it. Like we were running at one point probably about 20,000, 25,000 tests a day in this operation. Right.
Oh, was this with Clinic
360.
Clinic
Yeah.
360.
Yeah. So I get in there, and it's like we had, 6 sites or something like that. It's like, we're going to have 100 in the next 6 months, right? It's like, so get it going, Morales. All right, so hire, train. Where's our dashboards? That's what Don told me. Where's our
yeah.
dashboards? You heard it from him before. It's like,
Yeah.
I need a dashboard.
Yeah.
He wants to sit right here and be able to see everything's going smooth.
Yeah.
And that really spoke volumes to me. And it's kind of how I operate today. It's like, I want to see
Yeah.
stuff in front of my face, right?
Yeah.
If I'm going to make decisions, I need intelligence,
100%.
right? So I really appreciate that guy. I think you're in a great partnership there, and I'm looking forward to see what you guys do together.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So having Tuan as a partnership with Direct Fill has really given us span of control in terms of having a small team out in the Philippines that's supporting our efforts for sales and marketing in those verticals. And so his area falls under, outsourcing. So whether, there's different industries that he outsources to for call centers.
Yep.
And we're with it with that. We get it. It follows our model with connecting dots globally, supporting the efforts of the healthcare system, education system, technology system within the United States, really augmenting the workforce in the United States with global workers.
Yeah.
Because we all live on this one planet, right?
Nate,
Yeah.
I have an office at home, right? And every now and then my wife unlocks the door and lets me out of it. And I'll walk into her office, which is now the garage, right?
Her office is the garage.
Yeah, because she likes to do nails and stuff in the garage with her family, right? So she got her TV going. And what are you guys watching right now? Like, if I was going to talk about the last week or so, what are you guys watching, if anything? Paco, what are you watching?
Your Honor.
And
What's Your Honor?
it's a series, right?
Yep.
On
Oh,
Netflix.
it's a series?
Yep.
Yeah, have not seen it, so now now you're gonna make me watch it. I don't watch much TV.
Yeah, neither do I.
But like I said, she unlocks the door sometimes. She says, "Hey, you're free to roam the cabin," right? And I'll go walk in there. And so, what are you watching? Like, if I were to walk in your room, what are you watching right now?
Well, I don't really watch much TV either.
I have
It's
to think
usually
about that.
So, is anybody watching like the stuff that's going on with the upcoming election?
I know that there was a dropout.
Okay, dropout.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now they're just looking for a.
I think that was a kind of
nominee?
expected.
I
No,
mean,
it's Kamala.
I'm just
Oh,
yeah.
she's-
just-
so
that's
it's already set in stone.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I don't know that that's stone because I,
I don't think
there's
it's
still
set in stone. I think they still have to figure out like what are the laws within like dropping a presidential candidate from the ballot and like timeframes. I think they're trying to figure that out.
I mean, it's a full endorsement from President Biden, right?
Yeah.
And my point is not to kind of get which side of the aisle you're on, but when we're talking about like solving an issue with like true immigration of skilled workers, I cannot help think about the current status of the borders just south of us and how it is so damn easy to just walk right in this country today. But we've encountered issues with bringing skilled workers that we need through a legitimate pathway because there are caps that probably every single day enough people walk through that border that override that number.
So what
Oh.
you're saying is we got to pivot our plan and just have everybody come through south of the border.
Well, hey, I did not say that.
Yeah, no,
creative
yeah.
ways.
But like I just can't get past like this is a big part of our
Yeah.
election right now, right? Is
Yeah.
this is from both sides of the aisle a conversation point. The policies around immigration. So, from a broad holistic perspective, what's needed for the things that you all are working on? Let's go with you, Nate.
That's a tough one because that's that answer is, it takes a lot right there. But what's needed is just the ability to be, I guess, seen, and not seen as in like I see you, but seen in the sense where it's like seen in the sense where we do need these things, that the healthcare system is kind of hurting right now. And with all this divide that everybody does have, a lot of these things slip through the cracks, and this is one of them, right? Like,
Yeah.
like I mean, you worked through COVID. We all saw that, you couldn't rub two healthcare workers together to make a third. Burnout's really apparent. You have people switching industries right now a lot. So what's needed is just, whoever it is in the system that handles the immigration to see that there is really a need for this. There is really a need to supplement. And we're not saying, because I know a lot of the political talk is, you have, let's say, immigrants taking American jobs, right? But that's not what it is. I mean, there's also supplementations to keep what we have here afloat, because we do need, and this is the largest melting pot in the world.
Right.
It's a beautiful country. I love this country.
Yeah.
But we do need people to see that we need these people, but also it's not a zero-sum game. There's enough pie for everyone.
Yeah.
So why can't we help everybody if we can, And I don't know if you have something else to say to that, but that's, like you said, I don't know the political spectrum. I don't have all the answers. It's very much a very nuanced question, nuanced answer, but that's how I see it.
Yep.
That's how I see it in regards to what you were saying.
Kessiah?
He kind of set the stage to say basically we need better policy to increase the denominator of foreign workers that we allow into the United States in a timely manner.
Yeah.
So the EB3 is kind
And
of
that's why she's the CEO.
no, it's not.
Like you just said it
I
all
surround
in
myself with people
5
smarter
words.
than me. Don't let but thank you. But I mean, I live and breathe this right now, so
Yeah.
it's easier for me to articulate this because I have these conversations every single day, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And I have people in the network that I built almost 2 decades worth calling me, and they're like, Kessiah, we need nurses, and now it's we need nurse practitioners, and we need MAs. So the market since we last met,
MA medical
assistants.
Okay.
And we can dial into that.
We
and,
just need providers of health care.
right. Well,
I mean, it's pretty much across the board. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
when we look at really what I do, right? I mentioned these shortages, dialysis techs.
Yeah.
No matter what state you're looking across the state, California's got probably close to 1,000 openings for these people, which means
just California alone.
It's California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, when you look at California, is the biggest utilizer of dialysis services, right? When you look across the country, it's Texas and Florida, they'd be in the similar circumstance.
The larger markets.
But most states are short. Then when you look at the decentralized side of it, so dialysis happens in these centers where there's 20, 30 people getting their treatment at once, right? There's a big push since the last administration to have patients do dialysis at home. There's a lot of data to show it's better for them on many levels, from infection rates to the outcomes to the ability to keep a job and maintain, quality of life factors like family time and stuff like that.
That's
right?
a very,
But who's going to do it? Well, there's got to be somebody to train the patient to do it. And that is a very scarce resource, right? Where are they all at? Where are all these nurses at? They're in these centers. So there's this shortage of educators. There's shortage of staff that know how to do that, empower patients, right? And I got to tell you, like, when I think about a nurturing nurse that would be great for home dialysis, I'm going to go pick one from the Philippines.
Philippines.
You know, I mean, I've been there, right? Just once. And I didn't have to fall in love with Filipino culture because obviously I've married a Filipina, but I fell in love with the Filipino culture all over again. And I came back raving, right? Like this was
Yeah, I remember that.
one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had, just from the general population. But when I went into the healthcare population, just really, really nurturing, maybe a little bit behind on some of the practices that we have here, probably for a certain reason, right?
Yeah.
But as far as the level of care that goes into it and the level of care that goes into you need to like be taught, right?
Yeah.
You can't just like go through the mechanics of things.
Yeah.
So, I really think that this is, like you said, policy change should be a priority to healthcare workers as well. Do you feel that when you have those conversations about bringing overseas professionals, do American nurses and MAs and physician's assistants, do they go like, don't
No.
do that?
Well, hold on. Can I ask you a
No.
question real quick, Michael? Okay, so back to what you were saying. So, given that you're in this, right, how would you streamline the process? Like looking at it, analyze, critically think, how would you streamline that process to help get these skilled professionals into the workforce as far as, nephrology, renal, stuff like
Yeah.
that?
I mean, I think Kessiah, both of you guys are on the right track as far as evangelizing that there is a solution. At the moment, it's a queue, right? So, like, get in line, okay? Now, are there creative ways to do things? I think that those are starting to come to fruition, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are creative ways to move maybe smaller numbers of people for individual needs. But from the industrial perspective, to really have the means, and from a policy perspective, I think that's where it goes, is we got to like raise that cap.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm going to say it out loud, and I'm sorry, guys, like much of my family has immigrated. We have to tighten up on illegal immigration
Yeah.
in this country, because when you're doing this, it's like, well, it's just people coming from another country. Yeah, but some are coming here with a legal pathway and a job when they get here, and they're not going to need the subsidy, the state of welfare that the United States would offer, right? Whereas a lot of the illegal immigration results in utilization of that subsidy. And I'm not against people coming to a better country. I'm not against, like, hey, if I was dying of kidney disease, better believe
Yeah.
I'm going to find a way into the United States, because I know I'm going to get treated.
Right.
Because the United States government allows it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
can you hate somebody for that?
No.
No way, right?
No. 'Cause we're all human.
yeah.
We're all human, and you bring up a real a real sensitive, but I think good topic to talk about because some people don't want to talk about it, but at the end of the day, there is the heart forward approach where we do want to help people. America was really built on that.
Yep.
We're all really immigrants,
Yep.
to be honest.
That's right.
It's just how long has your family had the lineage
Yeah.
of immigration
Yep.
at the end of the day.
Yeah, doesn't it say something like that on the Statue of Liberty? Like, give us your tired, hungry, poor. I don't know if it's on the Statue of Liberty. I think it's
Somewhere in the
Yeah.
Memorial Mall in DC. But
It's
yeah,
on a plaque in
exactly.
a store somewhere.
And
It was in a plaque in a store. Is that what it said?
Yeah.
So did the souvenir store.
Yeah.
Right?
He's like, wasn't it there on Abraham Lincoln's? No,
That was at the airport at the
was at the
souvenir
airport.
store. Yeah.
Yeah, at the duty free. But yeah, there needs to be a change in policy. I think there needs to be a mindset shift as
Yeah.
well. And we're out here evangelizing as well as doing the business, as well as developing models. So our passion, our focus, the advent and the reason for Direct Phil, FIL, which is a play on Filipino, was staffing and healthcare workers. But then we found other ways to kind of supplement income and revenue, ways to get quicker revenue so that we can wait out the policy
Yeah.
things that are happening
Or the queue.
or the queue.
Yeah.
So like I don't know if people know this. I don't know. I think you may know, Michael, but in 2022, I think it was 2022, the United States USCIS put a moratorium on
Yeah.
EB3s.
Yeah. So now we're catching up.
Now we're catching up.
Which we
But there's
probably
many
won't catch
visas.
up. Yeah.
There's many, we probably won't.
Yeah.
So the EB3, H1B, and it's not just for nurses. Nurses do get the priority though. When it comes to USCIS, I know this just talking with some folks within the Senate office.
And isn't it like a relatively small number of EB3 and H1Bs that
Yeah,
they
it's
like let in?
65,000. It may have shifted
Yeah.
per annum. That's for all industries.
And what's our shortage of nurses today? What's the guess here, guys?
Fuck, growing.
Oh, growing. I mean,
A mil?
at least 1 million. So there's so directionally in terms of like stats, and just stop me at any time because I'm going to nerd out on all this. But
All right, fact checkers, come on.
yeah,
let's
fact
go.
checkers, please hashtag facts. But there's roughly 380 million U.S. Americans. Okay, there's 6,129 hospitals. That doesn't include SNFs and urgent cares and all that stuff. But actual hospitals that render care, emergency services, so on and so forth, all levels of care. There's 6,129 to service 380 million people. There's roughly about 90 to 95 million Medicare beneficiaries. So that's age 65 or older, as well as ESRD,
Yep.
as well as hospice, as well as disabled,
Yeah.
disabled
Permanently
folks.
disabled, yeah.
Permanently disabled, encompassed roughly. There's a lot of care that needs to be had. There's 3.2 million nurses, boots on the ground. So when nurses say like we're superheroes, there's one right next to me.
Yeah.
For real, who you're training for real, when they are, because what they do, the average weight that they lift per shift is like 2.3 tons or something like that. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's a lot. Okay, and people are leaving
Aggregate. We're just not doing it individually, mind you.
this. Yeah, but I mean it's aggregate. Yeah, like over the course of their shift, and so
Press the Hoyer lift.
Yeah, right.
All right.
yeah, and people are leaving the field to become writers, NPs. There's
I've seen a lot of that. The rider one. What I noticed was when the vaccine became mandatory. Did you see a lot of this out in the field? Did any of your colleagues kind of drop out of nursing?
yeah,
Yeah.
or got fired or whatever.
Did they come back when the mandate was dropped, or are you guys seeing the organizations drop the mandates? Because I actually sent this question out to an organization today. Again, one of the business I own, they enrolled techs and nurses to train, and as of recently, there's a lot of people that want to do that, but they don't want to get vaccinated. So, what are you seeing out there right now? Or maybe Nate?
Well, I haven't seen a mandate for a
Yeah.
vaccine in a long time since.
And most of them are
since
kind
they
of,
dropped it.
They dropped
Well,
it.
yeah.
They turned. It's hard to enforce it. If individually, autonomously, an organization wants to, they turn a blind eye because they need workers. And it's not just RNs, registered nurses, LVNs, MAs. AI is kind of taking over phlebotomy. That's another discussion. The primary care system's getting defragmented. AI is a component.
Yeah.
So we're actually needing more NPs because they can do the job of physicians. But there is a need for physicians.
Yeah.
There's just been kind of a mass exodus of healthcare workers post-COVID. And I think the average age of folks in the United States, it's like 44 years old or 43 years old or something. So we're an older country.
Yeah.
And if you graduated everyone from all of the healthcare institutions and degrees, like there's not enough people to support the population.
Still wouldn't be able, still
Right.
wouldn't be there. And I know we lack educators anyways, right? And educational institutions. What about in the Philippines? Because I was blown away by the average age of the worker there. What is it?
I don't know, actually.
It's in the mid-20s.
I would think like 23.
Really?
Yeah.
23.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
I think the average age, Paco, maybe we can, is it 20s, mid-20s? The average age of the
Google.
Filipino right now in the country, I believe, is in their mid-20s.
Were we talking worker or just in the country?
In the country.
Oh, wow.
So that was something we heard when we went on this last trip in February.
And Filipinos want to come here. They want to work
yeah.
in the United States. Like
yeah.
a lot of them are in KSA,
I want
Saudi
them to come
Arabia.
too.
Yeah, the Philippines, don't they have the largest population of people? I forget the actual term, but they have the largest population of people who actually leave the country for work, like contracted work and all that.
Yeah.
And then
It's like
a
in
big
the
part of the
Talking about
GDP.
the Philippines?
Yeah.
In the Philippines, okay.
And then also the GDP in the Philippines is in large part from remittance of, which that's something that I've, since that trip to the Philippines.
23 and a half.
23 and a
Oh,
half
so I was
average
around
age
there,
of the
yeah.
Filipino.
I figured it was
They
around
just
23.
barely started drinking.
Is that, I mean, you know,
Oh, no, no.
I get smarter when I drink. Yeah.
50.
yeah.
Oh, it's 15? Okay, all right, never mind. They're seasoned. They're seasoned drinkers.
I mean, that's insane though. Like if I'm,
Wait, the age for drinking in the Philippines is 15?
oh, I don't know if is there an age, Paco?
No.
You just do it, right?
You just do it? Okay.
Just
It's like-
drink.
One of our friends here, she
Someone
said,
hands
like,
you a red horse and you're like, all right, here's some Geneva, all right.
you might have saw Gisela Vasquez on here before. She was like, you know, in the United States, like you go to college, that's when you start partying. In the Philippines, like you're 12. I was like, what the hell? Like, yeah.
But I think that's why, Filipinos are such hard workers.
Yeah.
And it's not because we're half Kalahate. We've seen it. And if you give Filipinos, they're a hospitable culture. We're loving. We're very about relationships and connection. We actually don't want to stand out in a crowd in the wrong way. But if you give us a platform to do well, we will.
Paco, I need you to look this one up too, Paco. Sorry, I'm going to
Yeah,
put
yeah.
you.
I'll just go on all
there
day
is-
about Filipinos.
Well, on that topic, have you guys seen this movie that was put out not too long ago about Filipino nurse during the COVID pandemic? It might be
Was it
called,
the one
like-
in Saudi Arabia?
No, it's here. It's about the American
Yes.
Filipino nurse and the loss of lives, how disproportionate it was.
What's it called?
I don't know the name, but
I think it won,
movie.
like,
it won some award.
Won a couple of
A movie
awards.
about Filipino nurses in the United States during the COVID pandemic and the loss of life among like I saw some
Very
clips of
high.
it, and it was like, was it Tita and Ninang's in the hospital dying, right? Like,
Yeah.
but disproportionate among Filipinos
Nurse
because of
unseen.
Nurses.
what's it called?
Nurse unseen.
Nurse Unseen.
Nurse Unseen, yeah.
So I'm dying to find a place where they're airing this or where I can see this thing. Have you guys heard of it, seen it?
I know
Never
that they
have.
Check it
had
out,
the
man.
Manila Film Festival in LA for the first year this past year.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that was aired there and it,
It
won
was?
some awards. Yeah, that's how I heard about it.
Yeah, I just caught wind of this because the American Nephrology Nursing Association is going to do a viewing at their fall summit, which I got to get more info. Maybe that's the way I'm going to see it, but really, really curious to check this out because you're right. I mean, wherever you go, right? I was in the hospital in Minnesota before, and my nurse
Minnesota?
was... Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try, man.
The country of the long goodbyes, the place of the long goodbyes.
Wait, what's that about?
So in Minnesota, they have like long. It's like bye, okay, bye, Michael, and it's like bye.
Okay.
Say hi to the kids. Yeah. Don't forget to.
So is it that? So what's up with you? You know that one?
No.
What video is that? It's like one of those comedy movies where they're in a bar. It's with Cameron Diaz, the one where she gets her hair like this.
Oh, something about Mary.
Yeah, like what's up with you? Nothing. What's up with you?
Nothing.
Nothing.
And that's it?
Yeah, it just goes back and forth
It's
for
like
like
the short hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the long short hello.
Well, it's great to hear about the evolution of direct fill.
We have better partnerships. We're more focused. We understand what we're delivering. And we just dialed in our passion.
Wait, so I have a question though. So, okay, so back to, sorry to cut you off, back to the 23 and a
please cut me
half
off.
of the average age of people in the Philippines. What's the average age of people in America? Because I'm
It's like
asking this
44.
because also
Wait, Filipinos in America or just in,
just generally in America, because
It's like 44. or
didn't they
something.
say though that the growth, the birth rate in the USA is also dropping as well,
It's negative, actually.
right? So
I mean-
It's like
believe
minus
I
one.
believe it's dropping, right?
Let's dive in.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Let's go.
42.2.
40
Yeah, it is around there.
Oh wow, so about 20 years difference. Wow,
Yeah.
that makes
42.
a major
It does.
play in the
Yeah.
workforce.
It does. So I'm going to open that door for you guys. Let's talk about that. Like, why are people not having kids in the United States?
Oh man, this is gonna be totally anecdotal. I have my opinion.
Hold on. So
I'm
I
looking.
might be-
Don't ask me mine.
I'll start.
I'm gonna ask you.
I'll start. And I believe this is what I think from what I've been told. Education. It takes longer to get educated. And when you have to have education, that's a long-term goal. When you have a long-term goal, you have to put life goals further into the rear view, or not in the rear view, but further in the future. And then so then you wait, and then sometimes you realize, hey, maybe I don't want to have kids.
That's real.
don't
So
wanna have a family.
so education, the time it takes for education, is the priority, and then family becomes like deprioritized or kind of a secondary thought. After I
Yeah.
do this, I'll do this.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, back in the day, it was like you basically are born. When you become a teenager, you're kind of like expected to be part of, something that supplements the household, which is you're working somehow. And then you have kids earlier because you also need people to supplement the household, right? So you have all those things. I mean, that's just why kind of like schools came into play too, right? That's why they had the school bells, because the school bells correlated with the what was it, the factories, their work day too, right? So it's kind of like a
Get them trained.
get them trained, get a babysitter during the day, get them trained so they can come into the
Are you a
workforce
Matrix
earlier.
guy? You think you were being put in the Matrix?
Oh, I'm
We can
totally-
dive into this.
Yeah.
We can have conversations about simulation.
I have my simulation theory, and I do think it is somewhat of a simulation. We'll dive into that. But yeah, I
His
think that-
simulation theory is actually I could subscribe to. It's not like VR's type of simulation. It's actually biological, which is pretty interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So then, with all that, any which ways, so now education is becoming more a priority. It's part of now the American dream. Get education so you can get a good job. But to do that, that's a minimum. Let's say to get a certificate, you're looking at like, let's say a year. To get like a AA, 2 years. To get a BA or a BS, 4 years. Masters on top of that's another 2 to
Yep.
3 to
2 to
4
3,
years.
yeah.
6 to 8
Doctorate,
years.
da 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 da, so on and so forth, up the rung, right? But if you're doing all that, you have less time, like you said, to focus on the family, to focus on all those things. So, in my
I mean, I'm really encouraged by your answer, actually, because it sounds that everybody wants to be educated. What do you think? Does everybody want to be educated? Is that part of it?
So my context is a little different. I agree. There's a certain area of the population in the United States, like we just want more things. We're marketed to have more things and bigger things. It takes longer to attain. There's also, the thought and the theory and the mindset of overpopulation. I think those all factor. So I think it's multifaceted, in my opinion, but kind of spanning out. So I spent some time in the Middle East doing work and kind of going through like their workforce planning, introducing like AI type things like years ago. And there it's actually interesting where in order to get a job as a director, you have to have a master's.
Okay.
In order to get a job at a C level, you have to have a PhD. So their population that are patriots or they're actual nationals of whichever country. I was working with the GCC countries. You have to have a certain education that aligns to a job code or level.
Gotcha.
When I was there, they actually wanted to see like why the U.S. was successful in developing IP when there was actually less education. I mean, we have a larger denominator in terms of the population, and so it was more about experience and connection and all that stuff. Experience in terms of like experience on the job. But my opinion is, it's kind of just anecdotal. It's just I think that we're more consumed with things, and we don't have time to raise children or the thought of raising children, and we want a bigger house and a faster car and vacations, and
I
we
want
have
one
to.
of those.
Yeah, me too.
I do want a faster
yeah,
car, actually.
faster car. And in order to do that, you have to attain money. And in
Yeah.
order to attain money, you have to get education and experience, and that takes time. And it takes time away from the home. And we've kind of moved away from the values. And we were actually talking about this on the way here. The values of like discipline and consistency over time, because we want things quick.
Yeah. It's been lost.
Hit that like button.
Yeah.
Been lost, right?
Yeah.
Gone are the days of like planning the farm.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, we were just talking about that. It's everything's so quick, and before you had to plan for the harvest. And if you lost a day, then you potentially lost your income for the year.
You might have
So
lost, yeah.
So you needed the discipline, and we don't really have that because it's so easy to make money. And I say that like tongue in cheek. As an entrepreneur, it is hard
Yeah.
to make money.
Yeah.
But it's possible.
Yeah.
It's just how much money you want, you know.
How much, how much you want, how much you need is a completely different thing,
want
right?
and need, yeah.
So Paco chimed in on this, and Paco has a couple kids, 5.
Wow.
I feel that having kids early in life forces us to succeed. We can always get our education afterwards. I had my first child 20 years old. I was a construction worker, Camila, right? I was a construction worker. I made good money, but I didn't have any money because I was a kid. And all I did with my money was fuck around. You know what I mean? So,
You're like, oh, I have $1,000
like,
bucks.
I carried benefits and all that stuff. So, you know, I was semi-ready for a kid to come into the world, but nowhere near it, right? And Paco, like, you're right, man. Like, it took me 20 years to succeed or grow up. But I can tell you that the only reason I did was because I'd still be a 20-year-old if I didn't have these kids who grew up, and all of a sudden I was like, oh God, like I have to,
Same.
I gotta be in a path that I want to see them on.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you, for sure, not even 40, maybe even, because I'm 47 now, so maybe only in the last 5 years can I really say I'm starting to fall in that right path. So, you know, I kind of feel like, you know, that what you told me about education, I did that after kids, you know, what you told me about wanting all the stuff, like that came after kids.
So why do you think that the U.S. population's average
I mean,
is so
I
old?
think you guys are on, you know, there's those are factors, right? Like we're prioritizing what we're prioritizing, right? But when I think about the American youth today, you know, I can't help but think about the nuclear family and how that is not such a thing anymore. And like, why the hell would I want to have a kid when everybody gets divorced and everybody, you know, ends up fighting with each other, and you know, it has a toll, right? So a lot of the kids today, or a lot of the young people, are thinking, you know, family, no family. They're thinking about that, like, oh, that was fucked up.
Like they just want to live their life.
Like I don't want to be
friction?
I don't want to have what happened to me.
So it's like a generational trauma.
Maybe I think that's a part of it, because I don't know the number, but it's a freaking massive number of Americans that are in marriages that get divorced. It's like above 50%.
I think, yeah, 1 out of every 2.
Yeah,
something
so
like
it's-
that.
Yeah, it's like almost 60% of first-time marriages end in divorce. which-
Or, there's an or. It could be because we experienced the hardship growing up, we don't want our kids to experience it.
Yeah.
I mean, not you and me, but common parents are like, don't get married early. You don't want to experience what we experienced.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
like,
my dad told us the same thing. He was like,
I felt that way with my kids.
Yeah.
Now, 2 of them are in their young 20s and they have kids. I feel stupid for saying, like, wait. No, my daughter was 17, so I should have said wait, right? I was like, hey, no, right? Just one day she told me, like, hey, she waited till after we went to a Dodger game, right?
I tripped and he fell.
She was like, yeah. So she told me. But like my son, he was 20, 22, old enough, but not ready. And then I thought, like, was I ready? Like, no. And like, I fucked up a lot, you know, but like, I'm here for my kids. And we did have that broke family. So we don't have the nuclear family with my first 3 kids. I have a 10-year-old son. We do have that nuclear family, right? It's like I'm with his mom. That's my forever wife, I say. He's getting the right example of what 2 individuals can be as parents.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so do you see a difference in your first kids and then, I don't want to say second set of kids, but you know what I'm saying? Like, is there a difference in the way they approach things in life? Just given the examples that were set by you, and the mother.
I don't know yet. So my son's,
TBD.
So for me, like watching kids until they're 18, it's like, yep, I can tell you, I can. And then after that, they go like, F you, Dad. I'm going to do what I want to do. And then it's like, you got to think back to yourself. It's like, you did the same thing. I did the same thing. Like, I'm going to almost disown you because I'm going to do my thing, right? Now, I still have both my parents. I love them. They are a big part of my life. But there was a time where I had to, like, establish myself, right? And big part of that was bad decisions.
So
and
meaning
learning from
bad
those.
decisions help you learn experience?
They did one way or another.
Yeah.
They learned me like how to dodge a punch or, watch out for the guy who's reaching in his pocket or,
Well, most kids don't have that these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very pacified society in a sense, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you see all this stuff on the news, but...
Hey, Mike.
Oh, sorry. You see all this stuff on the news, but... Anyway, sorry.
What made you, Michael, strive towards like an entrepreneurial life?
So
when was
great
it?
question. So Nate, you used to buy candy bars. I used to steal them.
Oh, okay, yeah, there we
Yeah.
go.
And sell them, steal and sell
Oh
them?
yeah. I had the same
Your
store.
profit margin.
I had the
He's like,
same.
I just didn't pay for it.
I had the same store you had, but I used to go to I shouldn't tell where, but it was on the way to school because it's pretty close here. I used to stop in there every morning and just I had big jackets and I would fill it up and I was the candy guy, the beef jerky guy, all this stuff. Like I did that, right? And I can tell you again, bad decisions as a young man. Like I didn't have perfect examples. I still have, my parents are together and they're great, like great. But I didn't have like the greatest examples because my dad was a young man too, right? And like earliest memories in childhood were owning a bar and a lot of stuff that happened in that bar that, kind of, I watched it and then just silently did it. Even when I was a little kid, like my mom's like, I never knew. It's like, yeah, I was that good. I wasn't the guy that got
You're like low-key stealth. Yeah.
caught for stuff.
Yeah.
I was the one that like, I did it, right?
Yeah.
So there was always that. In healthcare, I found that I loved it because I love working with the people who needed the care. I identified with them really well. And for the most part, I could ignore what I know they've done in their life, for the most part. I shared not too long ago that I found out with certain people I couldn't look past it when I worked in a prison. Right? I worked in a Fort Devens, Massachusetts, like really high level terrorists, serial rapists, things like this, and I just couldn't focus.
You worked there.
Yeah, I brought in electronic medical records, but I figured out that if I was doing patient care, like I don't want to do it there.
Yeah.
Just because of the stories.
it's
hard.
you just can't know them because if you know them, then you're
Yeah.
any human being, when they hear that somebody's hurt a woman or a child, is going to go like,
Yeah. You're like, yeah.
But then outside of the outliers, you said you were able to break it down to the lowest common denominator, which is we are all humans and we all need help at various stages, various times of our lives. Yeah.
Well, we had a great debate with some of the audience the other day like that's part of, I'm not a nurse, by the way, but that's part of the training of a nurse, right? And I kind of got trained by fire with home care and a family member and then went into the profession through a school like I own. There is a short certificate course, right? Certification. It doesn't quite go into the that level of ethics.
Okay.
Which I think since having that debate, we should definitely improve on, because I'm not the best example, and I think it's important to be real about that, right? But as a clinician, like I felt like I identified with people. I could be non-judgmental. I could deliver great care. Not just from putting needles and setting up machines, but like, let's talk, let's be friends. I care about you.
See the human side,
Yeah, the human side.
not just your medical record number.
I mean, I
That's important.
Yeah.
I hate this
Especially in
role.
the age of AI and
Oh, yeah.
tech is
Yeah.
to understand our humanity.
Yeah. Well, one role I've served in my career is HR, and I'm great. I'm great at it, but I
Are
hate
you?
it. Oh God.
I would be. Oh, that
When it comes to like, I shouldn't even say it, but like comes to firing people, like I can do it, man. Like I can do it very well.
You're like, I'm good at HR. 'cause
Usually
I like
they don't
firing
pick up
people.
stuff and throw stuff, but no, I mean when it comes to those HR issues that are people issues, like you two are battling right on the floor. You're both nurses and you just can't get along. I can typically kind of diffuse those situations. When it comes to the legality of things, like I suck. Don't put me in HR. But when you just want somebody to kind of protect everybody else from having to deal with internal problems, I'm really good at that.
So a lot of off-record stuff.
A lot of off-record stuff. But I found out like I just deliver care in a special way. I could relay things to patients, and I just felt like if I can deliver it that way, then I should be teaching a small group of people how to do the same. So like my real entrepreneurial spirit came when I started a school, and it was like, Paco, remember, like I just want 10 people every now and then to teach. So that those 10 people are going to go touch 12 patients a week, right? And then I feel like I touched 12 times. I feel like I touched 120 people's life by teaching, right? So that's what sparked it for me, was really just wanting to have impact. From there, now the entrepreneurial bug is in me, and it's like, okay, how many ways are there to impact people? And I typically look at those things. I haven't invested my time or my money into anything that's not just going to help people. That's the requirement for anything I do. Is it going to help people? And typically it's from the healthcare perspective. So hopefully I answered your question there.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's really inspiring, because there's a lot of, as you know, doing business, there's a lot of reasons why people go into business and then what they form into, and money's a big factor.
Yeah.
And money drives a lot of decisions.
Yeah.
I like to say that I think people see your passion. And it's like you can't fake it. And you definitely have a passion. Like I also have a flower business. Paco knows this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Promote it.
Promote it. Petals and pricklies.
Petals and pricklies.
But that business taught me how to be an entrepreneur, and I did it because our sister in Sweden passed away.
Oh my
I was
goodness.
like,
I didn't know this.
Oh yeah. So in 2020, August of 2020, we have family in Sweden, and our eldest brother actually passed away years ago. So that we had 3 siblings, and his was on account of suicide. Very sad. And there's a whole epidemic with suicide in the Nordic countries. Just
Really?
Part of it's just the seasonal type of thing,
The SADs.
like the SADs, and it's dark, and the culture. It like when I went there for the funeral, us talking to people. Everyone you meet knows someone who committed suicide. So our
Wow.
brother happened to be one of those. I think.
Sorry to hear that, guys.
Thank you. I think recently we talk about it. The most impact is our dad. That was his son. And then years later, in 2020, our sister passed away, and that was the time when you couldn't go. You couldn't go outside your house.
Yeah.
So I mean, we watched her funeral through like a live stream.
Yeah.
And that was
Even her
rough.
father couldn't go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like
My
we
goodness.
couldn't go, and it was. I mean, I designed her flowers with the florist over there, and that's kind of what started it. And my brother Nate was like, "Kessiah, you should make this a business." And I didn't have a way to outlet this pain because we couldn't be there. So I just started designing flowers, and then it just became a business. And then it took me all these cool places, as well as washing buckets. But it taught me how to form a brand and be out there. And I had been in the business world
Yeah.
and worked at the C-level, but it was different. And I was out there, but I learned about passion. And what I mean by that is, I'll talk to people about flowers, and I don't know if you can feel it. There's something about flowers, but there's something about
She loves flowers.
loves flowers, but
Well, it makes so much sense now. I mean,
it makes people happy. Like when
that was your purpose as well, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the trigger, like, it started somewhere, and I didn't know that. So, like, I quite often wondered, like, where did it come from? Like, 'cause
Yeah,
it's so
like,
starkly
why-
different. Like, I mean,
I know,
it's
I
like
went
this
from, like,
creative.
AI and- yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, thank you for sharing that with us. It's, I don't know the saying, but there is a saying about a business without passion is doomed to fail.
Oh, is there?
Yeah. And I mean,
And most people out there that you talk to and at the level we're at when you're trying to close deals or whatever, like they've built their empire too.
yeah.
And they know they had to have passion and
Yeah.
they know the people that are just in it for the buck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought about this too in regards to healthcare and back to what you guys were saying
Yeah.
earlier, is that also too healthcare has become big business, right?
Yeah.
So big business people now have realized, hey, I can make
Yes.
some money in this business,
I
right?
have
So
some
then
stories.
the ethics and the morals, those bars get dropped really low sometimes, which sucks because sometimes you have someone, they're most likely the burnt out healthcare provider who's like,
Yeah.
I'm really trying to do this, and you have someone who's like, I'm just here to make a buck because I know it's a good job.
Yeah.
So that also factors into it too. And that's a kind of a weird, I don't know, for me it's weird to think about because you would think that someone going into that's like, hey, you should probably, think about the welfare of this patient.
Yeah.
I-
There's trillions of dollars in the
Yeah.
U.S. health
Yeah.
system.
I think about that a lot today, actually. I almost feel like that's a part of the nursing shortage as well. Like
what
you,
is it?
you're not like, it used to be like, oh, you're a nurse, you're rolling. It's not like that anymore. Like, hey, you can go roll from just like get on your phone now, right? Like, why
Yeah.
would I want to become a nurse?
Yeah.
Let me ask you that. Why would I want to become a nurse today?
You don't like wiping butts?
No,
don't
I
like
don't personally. No.
Because that's a part of it is
It is a
wiping
part of
butts
it, yeah.
and
Right.
wounds, deep
Yeah,
and not
wounds.
like cuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to like push against it, but I'm really asking that question. Why would I want to become a nurse today?
That's so interesting because not too long ago, the lines to get like nursing programs were impacted because everyone wanted to be a nurse because they're
Yeah.
like, I could do double time and I could make a 6-figure salary. 6-figure salaries are like nothing to
They
people
still
now.
are
Absolutely.
impacted. They're super impacted, and that's part of the reason why there's also the shortage
Why
too.
is that?
Because it's a weird thing, and once again, this is just my opinion. But it's like, okay, so if you're going to school for a specialized practice, nursing is a specialized practice. Why do I have to go and take, I don't know, let's say a film study course to satisfy an elective? It's like, why?
Yeah.
Like that film study course isn't gonna
Busy work.
exactly
It's
right.
not focused and
Yeah,
vocational.
right. So
Yeah.
so then and then on the other side of that, so then you have private institutions who are like, ooh, let's focus. But
Yeah.
those cost a little more, right? So then you
Is
have
it a little?
it's just a wee bit.
Just like how much? 100K more?
Depends on the specialty, but yeah,
I think the RN programs are like, those private ones are like about $130, right?
something like that versus
Yeah.
like you
Holy
go to
shit,
like
man.
a JC, you're probably looking at like, let's say the whole course is maybe 30K.
Yeah.
Just go BSN, the whole course is, let's say, maybe 60K, right? But you go private, you get it done quicker in 2 years.
Yeah.
But you're spending that 6-figure,
Yeah.
It's hard work. It's taking care of not just like a nice patient. It's taking care of difficult situations, dynamics with family. Anyone that's been in a hospital will know that you don't really see the doctor. You really see the nurse.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are boots on the ground, making it happen, rendering care within the continuum of care. I think to your question, Michael, why aren't people getting into it? I don't know. I'll give you my opinion from the people I do know, and having been in the industry for nearly 2 decades, is because it's not so much the money as it is the work now, because the system truly is inundated.
Yeah. So,
That's
it's a hard job.
It's a hard job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hard jobs should pay a lot of money, shouldn't they?
For the amount of
Hard
work
job,
that you're
skilled
doing.
labor, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you're taking. It was what is it? Nelson Mandela that said like healthcare it's like a human right, right? So so people need healthcare.
Yeah.
In all areas, right?
Let's
And-
talk about that, because
one?
I've debated that in my head many times.
Oh, universal healthcare,
Is healthcare
a human right.
a human right? Let's say in the United States, is it a human right?
I like how this can get easily contextual and nuanced.
Yes.
Oh,
Is
is it a
it?
human right?
Yeah. I mean, let's talk in the United States. Is it a human
In the
right? here
United States structure,
I will say yes, it's a human right.
how
to
it's
the,
structured.
to the degree of how you wish to practice your own health care. That's a human right. But as far as is it a human right for taxpayers to pay for everyone's health care? Well, then that's very nuanced. And I always say this, I always go to the voodoo. I use the voodoo example. How do you pay for voodoo? Because voodoo can, right? Well, no, think about it, right? Let's say you have, mind you, I'm not fact checking people, sorry out there, but I am not a voodoo expert, but let's just say you have a witch doctor,
voodoo?
right? Yeah, let's just say you have a witch doctor, and the witch doctor, you go to your witch doctor, you're like, oh man, my left side hurts. And that witch doctor's like, burn this herb or whatever it is, holistic approach to it, right? Well, how do you quantify that in a Medicare taxpayer dollar sense? How do you say, like, if your solve is to eat 20 bunches of kale, right? How do you quantify that? How do you say, okay, this is now we're going to go bill it. So then how do you bill for that? How do you get reimbursed for that 20 bales of kale if that's your holistic approach and what's been prescribed to you? So it's very nuanced. And I always go back to voodoo because it's like, how do you quantify?
How do you code for voodoo?
How do you code for voodoo practices?
What's the revenue cycle management model for
Paco,
voodoo?
let's get a Richard Vanderplas email. Vanderplas, get in here. So I know a really smart and accomplished gentleman, and I'm hoping he's going to accept the invite here. Richard, give us your email. We're going to send you a guest link. He says that this is the combos that I need to be in, so I'm calling your bluff or calling your
That's awesome.
calling your challenge here, Richard.
We love it.
Chime in, all right?
We love it.
Yeah, that one has struck me for a long time.
What do you think? I'll give my opinion when
I wish it was a human right. I don't think it is. I wish it was. I'm talking here in the United States. I just don't see that it's like an actual right. There is a cost to it. If it was a right, then like there wouldn't be that cost to it. Now maybe it's not on me.
Because he layered on the system and the infrastructure. Because that's why your variable was very specific of in the U.S.
Yeah.
Versus holistically on like an energetic, spiritual level versus how the U.S. is structured is.
Hey, I wish we could take care of everybody, but it's actually. And
agree.
Richard, I can't wait till you get on. You got him, Paco? He just put in the comments his email there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
When we look at those that receive care, United States is one of those countries that it almost seems as a right, but there is a cost to it, right?
Yeah.
We've seen ourselves get in trouble with that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the Medicare system as a whole, it's not in great shape. And I know Richard, he comes from the same place as I do, specifically in the realm of what they call end-stage renal disease. Like there is this disproportionate spend that I'm going to try and be very sensitive about this.
No, go for it, because I think Nate kind of touched on it. It's the fee schedules and the coding structures and the reimbursement rate for certain specific codes and CPTs and ICDs, so I'll just kind of get technical and lexicon here, is higher. And ESRD, in terms of the Medicare population, if you have 100, it's a very small portion within the Medicare population.
That's right.
But it makes up for the most
A
reimbursement.
massive amount. I mean, I always put it this way. If you had 10 kids, Paco's almost there.
Halfway Paco?
there.
He's like, I am 50% on the way.
So you had 10 kids and you had $100 to feed them. How much do you spend? $100 a day. How much do you spend on each kid?
If you had 10 kids, you have $10.
$10.
Yeah.
But like I'm the fatty and I love my whatever, so I eat $30 worth of food.
So are you saying there needs to be a definition of what
Invite sent, Richard.
like base healthcare should be, and anything above that is in question?
I think that we've seen ourselves fall into models that don't work from a business perspective.
Archaic.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, the last administration quoted about the ESRD population, right? That basically we choose to treat the patients in the worst way possible, which is in a center, and the in a model that costs the most. because when they're in the center, they often get infections and.
If you keep them sick, then
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know that it's keep them sick. It's just
the model is not conducive for their health.
Wasn't there a
Right.
whole huge? They were trying to drop funding for it too, right? Like I think I
Well,
saw
what they did
that.
was it's called the Advancing American Kidney Health Initiative, and it was not dropping funding. It was modeling an initiative to drive and evangelize home and transplant.
Okay.
To where today we have like the big chunk of people who get dialysis that happens in centers, to shift it over to the home, and that changes things, because then total expense, things like transportation. That's a lot of our patients in dialysis that need this transportation. If you have them home, then you cut that part out, right? Then when you got to get transported, like sometimes there's transportation issues, and if you miss treatments, then that's actually a big deal. You might end up needing to go to the hospital, and if you get admitted, what's the spike in the cost of care when you get admitted into the hospital?
Oh, it's like an average event for an ER visit. I think it's like 10. It's around 8 to 10K or something.
I mean, I think that's the ER, but once you get admitted,
admitted.
put it
I
up to
don't
like
even know.
20, 25.
So the way that the U.S. health system is structured, it is not conducive that everyone can have health care. But in the model of Sweden, so a lot of people that I talk to, they're like, everyone should have health care. Like, look at Sweden. I'm like, let's talk about Sweden, because we actually have family there, and we've actually had family members that have passed away. And I say this with reverence because it is our sister. But when she passed away, and it wasn't because of COVID, it's just how the system is, because they're trying to service everyone.
There was a lag.
It was like she was buried not knowing why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We still haven't got that.
No, we did.
either.
It was like
we did.
11 months later, they told us why.
Yeah.
And that's hard for a parent. So the reason I bring that up is because there has to be new creative ways to, I believe, in my heart and in my soul, that people that are born in this planet should have access to health care.
Yeah.
Now, defining what that base health care is to be determined. And when you add margin to some of these large healthcare companies that are making hundreds of billions of dollars a year,
Yeah.
and they're denying claims, they're not rendering care, their care models aren't working, they're not conducive to the patient, reimbursement rates are high in certain areas. I'm going to say it, Medicare is trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
And every program that you go into that makes money, and I've been a part of this in these healthcare companies, and I've worked with the largest, they always go towards the Medicare budget and the Medicare programs because there's so much money.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, I think, is that the greed and the way that we've structured the revenue cycle, the way we've structured the fee schedules and how we render care in those care models just doesn't work. It just creates a big problem. And people aren't actually overall healthy because maybe we do need some witch doctors, or maybe we need some more ancillary type of things, you
You
know?
guys see what Dana
Voodoo.
White says now?
What's he saying?
Like
I
he's-
went to a witch doctor in the Philippines, and
Really?
it actually worked, yeah.
Dana White's doing superhuman biochemistry stuff, right? With, I can't remember the doctor's or he's not a doctor, he's a biochemist, I believe. But he's made some recent statements. I don't know if you guys know, he kind of put on some weight and cholesterol, and I think he was like
Dana White?
pre-diabetic. Yeah, he was
this is when he was about to die, right?
he was in bad shape. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleep apnea, all this stuff. And today, if you were to hear him, he would say, I'd never go to a doctor for general health again.
A Western doctor?
No,
or
a doctor.
a doctor in
A
general.
doctor. And that is because he feels that, hey, you got a problem, take a pill. You got apnea, take a CPAP.
Yeah.
Where there are actually like physiologic root causes that can be addressed in different ways. Anxiety is another one, right? Like I talked about this last night. It's like really easy to pop a pill and get rid of it. But like there's actually other ways that are really would address the root.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're right. And to add on to that, to get a true assessment takes time.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're a doctor and you're trying to pay back this hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
doctor school loan that
Yeah.
you took
You
out,
wanna
you got to
make
see
money.
patients.
Yeah.
You know, you got to see them. So it's like, this what you're saying? This is, the easiest to say this is what it is, and we'll take it from there.
So we've been on a fee-for-service thing with this Medicare program for a long time, right? And I don't know, the last 10, 12 years, we start to see the ACOs and the ESCOs and the direct contracting entities.
ACO
and
doesn't really work
now
well.
we got the Medicare Advantage plans, and then we've got the SNAPs, the special needs programs, things like this. And I got to tell you, like, the writing's on the wall that, you're going to get paid for how good you do. Pay for
Value-based care.
value-based. The writing's on
Yeah.
the wall. I mean, that's where everything's moving. That's really a logical means to putting accountability on providers. Like, you have to get the outcomes. You want to get paid, you get the outcomes, right?
Yeah.
And not only do you want to get paid, but do you want the upside of, like, reducing the cost of care? Any experience with these programs? What do you think is exciting today that's going to change the way that we practice healthcare? And that, the true purpose of this team is, if you're the Lakers, right? The Lakers is the team, right? And there's all these, I don't know basketball too well, by the way, but, there's this guy who does this, and there's guys who does this, and this guy who does this, but the Lakers is the team, right? And when it comes to healthcare, it's not actually like, ABC organization. It's like Morales, who's sitting in that damn chair or in that bed. That's the team.
Yeah.
Right? That's the name of the team. It's the one person we're serving, right? So how do we get modeling that works for the team?
So I have experience in value-based care, specifically population health, risk adjustment, and to what you're saying, Michael, we do need more specific patient health to the patient. So this is where technology does ring well, and specifically AI. There's this thing called interoperability. There's this area called
God. I'm so sick of that right now.
interoperability and like
Yes.
APIs and all that stuff. But it's needed because in a medical record, you brought up EMRs when you were in Massachusetts and the prison system, right? So there's also lab diagnostics. There's also images, and this all exists in an area called the HIE, or Health Information Exchange, which is like the Wild West of data. And no one and everyone has something out there. But if you were to pull in like Michael or Kessiah or Nate's or Casey's specific record, and then you ran real analytics to say, and adding in genetics, and real analytics to say this is the type of care you need. These are vitamins you shouldn't take based upon your genome makeup and your DNA. These are prescriptions that you should or should not take. I think you should also add on like ancillary and more holistic services like breath work or like the voodoo doctor or whatever the case may be. So can I say a little
Shout out
bit
to
about
voodoo.
that? Like
We got to hear about it. But let's go, because
it's not that bad. So I was in the Philippines. We were with our dad. We were playing at this like swimming hole. I was like 20 or 21 or something like that, and there was these. It was like a little mini dam, and it was covered in seaweed, and I was jumping on it, and I slipped, and then when I slipped, I slipped up, and then I landed right on this shoulder, my left shoulder, and I couldn't move it. And then my cousin was like, "Oh, I'm going to take you somewhere tomorrow," and so we went in her Jeep. And we went through the jungle to this little hut, and there was a man that was like really old. He had very long nails, and he got some kind of solution that looked like maybe like Tiger Balm, and he took my shoulder and he did like 3 pressure points, and then he said, "Don't take a shower for a whole day, don't put water," and then literally it was gone.
wow.
And I couldn't move it, and I've never had a problem ever since. And then later on, I found that he was like one of those. He was like a practitioner of what some people would say like a witch doctor.
We were talking about Peru, right? And I think I even mentioned this to you in my
Shamans.
text. Yeah, so there's a lot of Amazonian magic, right? And then Inca medicine, right? Like brain surgery before brain surgery was a thing, right? But so the closest thing I've experienced, which by the way, I'm very open to an experience. Yeah, Paco's like, oh shit. Very open to an experience.
A shaman experience?
Yeah, and I actually was sharing with my wife the other day, you know what, like, because I recently got on this, I found out, like, I like travel, because I always thought I don't want to travel because I don't want to take a vacation because I'll sleep when I die, right? But now I'm like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Actually, it gives you a little recharge and makes you want to do it again, right? Like, as soon as I came back, I want to go. I already want to leave, right?
Yeah.
But when I was a kid in Peru, like, if you have a stomach ache, like, you'll get, like, some, from regular people, they have some magic beliefs, right? But you're going to get a leaf, and you're going to chew the leaf.
And coca leaf.
And, yeah. Or you're going to drink some tea, right? And, it's coca. But it, surprisingly, even little kids get coca, right? Not like snorting coke, or
Yeah.
I mentioned too, like pasta, right? Like the concentrate cocaine, right? They don't do that.
I was wondering what pasta was.
Yeah, it's bad.
Okay.
It's like before it's put into its powder form, right?
So
People
it's like
smoke it over.
very
A lot of people smoke
concentrated?
it. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, kids, adults. I mean, it's a very regular thing to chew some leaves for your stomach ache, for any sort of pain, and it's the effect of it gets you numb. It's not so euphoric, but it gets you numb, and it probably would have fixed the issue you had too. Hey, chew this.
Yeah.
You're good to go.
Yeah.
You're good to go, right?
But I mean, that really quickly, what that kind of supports is that we don't really understand our whole human system.
Yeah.
As much as we think, or the Western, like, medicine and medical journals really understand. Like, we don't even understand, like, the whole, our whole brain. You know,
That's the least understood.
It's the least understood
organ in our body, right?
It's the least understood organ, exactly. And there's an intelligence in our bodies. If I got a cut on a rose bush the other day, and my body knew right away to send platelets and to clot and to heal. And I think that what we forgot in healthcare is that there is an intelligence in our bodies, and I think that we need to tap into that too. The witch doctor that put tiger balm on my shoulder, or the coca leaves that you could have chewed. There's something else out there than fee schedules and certain care pathways and care models that you follow, that we think that this is the end all be all of healthcare. So if we span out and think about
Okay, he's going to jump
those
on.
things,
Give us a second, Richard.
healthcare
Producer
should
out of the
be
room for a second.
it
Sorry.
should be a right,
Yeah.
because in those villages, the shaman villages, healthcare is a right to
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
Because their structure works.
Yeah.
But to your point, the U.S. structure is a little broken.
So the infrastructure is not there.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Fair enough.
I mean, I gotta say, I'm encouraged by the new modeling of, things like value-based care, the Medicare Advantage plans. I hope, I'm optimistic, but when speaking to some of the actors in the field out there,
what part of value-based care do you like? I mean, I think there's there's structures out there, and there's this thing called a coefficient value, right? And the lower you want to shoot towards lower coefficients, because that's lower utilization, lower cost. So if you're saying to the doctors, your population in your panel should have lower denominators,
Right.
and you'll be reimbursed for that.
let's let a friend in, Kessiah and Nate. I want you to meet Richard Vanderplas.
Hello, friend.
So I'm going to kind of turn around here. Thanks for joining us, Richard. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. So
I just kind of popped in and I saw the whole conversation. It kind of like the hairs on the back of my neck started.
I was, I was like, your hair stood up, right? I knew that was what it was. I known this
love
guy
it.
for
I love it.
20 years or so, 15, 20 years. And yeah, I know when you say this is the convo I should be in, that you got some wisdom for us, Richard. So which part of the conversation hit you and caused that? That's what used to happen to me when I eat mayonnaise, by the way. The hair on the back of my neck used to stand. Sorry, off topic. Go ahead, Richard.
No mayo.
Yeah, so I've just a background. I've been in the industry since 1980.
That means he's old.
In what capacity, Richard?
So my father started on dialysis in 1980, and I was a certified technician at 15 and a half back in
Oh, wow.
1982. I'm a technician by trade, but I've been in the industry for 43 years. I've done, oh my goodness, I don't even know. I've been a part of building 56 dialysis clinics over
Oh,
my
wow.
career. I've done a lot with Mike. I've
Slapped me around a few
basically see,
times.
and the fact that you're actually pouring something, that's really pissing me off, right? But he already knows I don't anything brown I don't drink. It's going to
Yeah,
be clear.
it's got to be clear.
But I've written a couple of different articles. One of them is related to how technology has ruined patient care. We can get into that if you want to, but that's a whole different
I would love
conversation.
to, actually. Maybe another time.
Well,
What about a quick and dirty summary?
yeah, I
Yeah,
know that
I
one
would
is
like to hear it.
near and dear to me. Actually, you did write an article. Yeah, you were saying you wrote an article. What was it, renal business or Helio?
Yeah, with no, it was the old renal
Renal
whatever
business
it was
today.
called.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, back in the 80s, we had to physically go to a patient. We had to physically take a blood pressure. We had to physically give them a thermometer. We have to physically talk to them. And as a technician, that was our opportunity. How was your family? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And nowadays, you can literally have a nurse put a patient on, do an assessment, walk away.
Never even
Every
look them in the
piece
eye.
of information from the machine is documented. You don't have to go back to the patient. You should, but everything on that machine is documented, and they can put whatever notes they want to put in, but they don't have to actually physically go back. We had to.
Yeah.
We went back and actually took a blood pressure and like, oh, wait a minute, you're a little wet, you're a little sweat. What's going on? How you feel? What's going on? Cramping, throwing up, blood on the ceiling tiles. I'm just being,
Yeah, being real. Yeah.
so technology is great, but it's ruined how we actually treat our patients.
Richard, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
How many, so from that time to this time, how many patients were you responsible for at one time back in the 80s versus how many would you say they're responsible for now? Like, has there been an increase in the responsibilities you've had to take on or lessened?
It was very similar. I don't know that we actually, back in the 80s, we had like a patient care ratio. I mean, it's as the bigger companies. And so just for background, I've never worked for one of the big guys.
Yep.
Okay.
Everybody I work for
When you
is
say
all
one of the
independent.
big guys, it was one of the biggest here in Southern California for sure.
Yeah, for
back in
Cineas
the days.
DeVita until USRC, I worked for them for a brief period of time, and that's a whole different conversation. But everybody else I've worked for, very short period of time, family-oriented, very small companies, until I got to IDS, and I was responsible for 92 facilities over 14 states and the territory of Guam,
Oh, wow.
which was a whole different animal.
Yeah.
And so some of the stuff you guys were talking about, I agree with, but understanding that territories and where you're at in the world, even in the United States, is completely different.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about the LA area, we can have a conversation. You want to talk about Casper, Wyoming, we can have a conversation. You want to talk about Ohio, we can have a conversation. But some of the stuff you guys are talking about is not appropriate for every region of the country.
From the tech side, is that what you're talking about, Richard?
From the tech side or just
Yeah.
the reimbursement side.
Yeah. Well, that I think
So what
that's a big, massive part of his reimbursement.
Yeah. What parts though aren't appropriate
So I'll give you a quick example.
that we've brought up?
Well, I just heard, I heard like a 5-minute
Oh,
conversation. So literally I'm just jumping in and,
yeah, it's awesome.
but Yeah, the Casper, Wyoming, when we're actually making $800 a treatment, because the patients out there are all oil people
Yeah.
and they have private insurance, and we're making a lot of money. You come to Southern California,
Yeah.
every Medi-Cal patient we're losing
Losing.
$70.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I love that you bring this up, Richard, because outside of that 5 minutes, this is what we were talking about, is the disproportionate way of how payment and revenue and the financial aspect of the health system. So like Medicare is like almost 100 million folks strong when you include all the demographics. And the care models in that population, and it's trillions of dollars. And there's a lot of focus on the Medicare population. There's also the Medi-Medi, the Medi-Cal, and then there's just the standard commercial, and then there's the uninsured, right? You have the FQHCs and all that stuff.
Yep.
But the way the system, what we were talking about, the way the system works is there's higher reimbursements for certain ICDs and CPTs, and so those are the focus. And so we were kind of getting into the realm of like holistic care, bringing in more ancillary services, understanding like more on an intelligent level about the human, our whole human kind of genetic and physiological makeup. But I do appreciate what you're saying in terms of the area of nephrology is that, you know, the reimbursement for ESRD is there. The reimbursement for the same person in Medi-Cal is not there. And that's a system thing. It's 100%
Well,
a system.
Medi-Cal
Or
in California.
Medi-Cal, sorry,
Yeah.
Medi-Cal.
Yeah.
Sorry, Medi-Cal.
Medi-Cal in California, Medicaid in the world.
Yeah.
Right, in the country, yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's different for everybody, and it's all based upon a flat fee plus medication, so
Yeah.
it
Right.
depends on what happens.
Yep.
So you have, again, I don't want to get too much. I just had a conversation with somebody today, which will blow your mind in terms of reimbursement, but that's a whole different conversation. But
They found they found the honeypot or what?
no, this is,
Well, we
and
could
I
talk
won't
about
even
wound
get
care.
into names. No, it's a medication that just came out. It's Tdapta.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you want to explain. I don't know what they know about Tdapta, but
So Tdapta, can you dive in a little bit, Richard?
it's basically it's a payment outside of the bundle, and so
So that's the
If the medication is
transitional
too-
add-on, right?
so it's an add-on.
correct.
Transitional
It's
add-on, yeah.
additional.
for a short period of time,
Yeah.
2 years, 3
Two.
years,
Yeah,
4 years,
usually
whatever
two.
it is.
Yeah.
So it was a drug today, and literally I was just sitting with him. What time is it? 9:00? Maybe 5 hours ago, and he was telling me like, "Oh yeah, well, it'll make sense fee for service." I said, "Okay, so you want me to treat my patients different? That you have a different insurance, and I can provide you with this medication, but I can't provide you with the medication." Because you have a certain medication or insurance.
Yeah.
And I was like, this makes no sense. I mean, it makes sense because people want to make money, but I can't do that. I'm not going to provide a medication to somebody that just because of the insurance.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
But that's what's happening in the world. That's what's happening. They base your care on what your insurance is.
Yeah, and it creates that disparity because of how the system is structured. And so we were talking
So-
about Sweden. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's the problem. If you're going to base your care on what insurance they have,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
Yeah.
And the reason why, for those listening, and correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, is the reason why they focus on the insurance is because there's different reimbursement rates and what they call fee schedules
Drastically different. Drastically
by
different.
insurance. So they'll say for this visit for X insurance, I won't name anyone, it's $75 versus this insurance, it's $125. So of course, the care and the desire is going to be towards the $125 because of the desire for more money and more margin.
Richard, can
Yeah.
you shed some light on, you mentioned that you didn't work for the big guys. There's like this duopoly in
I did.
literally in dialysis
Oh, okay.
specifically.
Dialysis.
There's this duopoly, right? And if you look at the reimbursement rates of some of those organizations compared to what you would call not one of the big guys, Richard, what's that look like?
So, I mean, again, I told the same guy today, I was like, if we're in Casper, Wyoming, and I'm getting $1,000 of treatment for every patient, just on average, doesn't, it's not patient by patient, but on average, I'm getting 1,000. But in LA, I'm getting 230, and my costs are 230 across the board. So I'm breaking even in LA, but I'm making a boatload of money in Casper, Wyoming. What do we need to do? And we opened a facility in a certain area. We had one patient, no joke. We were getting paid $5,000 of treatment
Wow.
based on his PPS. He
insane.
ran the entire facility. He was the one.
Pay for everybody.
Yeah.
He
They
paid-
definitely didn't want him to leave.
Tabs on him.
Yeah.
So every treatment that he had, we keep him out of the hospital. We wanted to make sure because every piece of his reimbursement ran the unit.
Yeah.
But those are few and far between in LA. That doesn't happen here.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, within the end stage renal disease population, about 10% is paid on those commercial plans. Is that right, Richard? About 10% of the population.
For us, it's about 3.
About 3, but when you look at the total revenues and profit margins of these companies, I've seen reports that like that 10% accounts for what 35% of their actual profits.
Right, but they're nationwide. We're in LA,
Yeah, where you're
so they're spread out.
got to deal with the
makes
hand
money.
you're dealt.
Nebraska makes money.
Yeah.
New
So
Orleans makes
does
money.
it come down to density of population?
It comes down to where you're at. I can have 10 patients in a certain area that will drive the entire company
Yeah.
if they have the
Yeah.
right insurance coverage.
Well, I've
Yeah.
known clinics that have opened without Medicare certification, Richard, that are looking at only commercial payments and made massive boatloads of money, right?
Yeah. It actually goes down to the county level and even to the address, like addresses within a specific aggregate of zip codes on how they submit the bids for reimbursement. That's why Orange County reimbursement versus LA County reimbursement will be different because there's this plan benefit package, and that's how every insurance company submits to get their
From a commercial level.
commercial
Yeah.
level.
Plus, there's a labor-driven component to that. So,
But I really appreciate what you're saying, Richard, because what you're saying is there's a disparity that's happening because of how the system is structured, and there's more focus on care in specific populations in geographic areas and densities because there's higher reimbursement, which is creating this whole discussion on is healthcare, isn't an entitlement,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But when you look at the system, there's certain populations that are higher reimbursement, so they get better care versus other areas where they get lower reimbursement, right? And that's just how the system, the fee schedules, the insurance companies are structured. I think they tried to solve it with ACO model. And that really didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I want to say what's up to one of our
I'll give you one
guests
better,
here.
Mike. I just want to jump in.
Keith Edwards. Richard, you know Keith Edwards?
I do.
Yeah,
Well, I know the name. But
he's on with us. I think he's from Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, Keith.
well,
but
it's late for him.
yeah, we'll see him on the next conference. But I think he's with Angelini. If I'm not, hopefully I'm not speaking out of tongue here. But what's up, Keith?
Oh.
Thanks for joining us. So yeah, great chime in, Richard. I got to ask, what are your thoughts on the MA plans right now, and are they gonna the SNAP plans, the special needs programs, chronic special needs programs, are they gonna have an impact on us?
I'll answer that in 1 second. I wanted to jump in real quick because I had a conversation 2 years ago with, again, unnamed person. And Michael will probably know the person as I tell the story, but there are clinics out there that are picking and choosing who they will accept as a patient
Yep.
based upon their insurance.
Yep.
What that does for the market is those people that are getting less reimbursement go to the facilities that accept all the patients, which we should.
Yeah.
because we're part of the Medicare program, but nobody wants to realize that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to say anything like, I don't know where this patient came from.
Yeah.
I don't know. But if they have Medi-Cal or emergency Medi-Cal or undocumented or whatever, they ship the patient to the other units, which we lose $70, $80 per treatment. But nobody wants to talk about that, to go back to that person as a clinic and saying, what are you doing? We should shut you down because you're supposed to accept every patient that comes out of the program.
Yeah. Richard, you remember when I had hair and I lost it all from the running the nursing home, right? So we'd get these. You don't remember that time when I had hair? Is that what you're saying? I never had hair.
No, no.
So
it was low cut. It was, I mean, it was.
I never had hair.
So
Okay,
low
fine,
cut.
whatever, man.
He's being gracious.
Yeah, since
to
I was
you.
19, it's been like this. But so we'd have the admission request, right? We'd run through with director of nursing, with the administrator, who at the time was me. We'd make sure that we can accommodate the needs of the patient. We'd make sure they are who they are. We'd check all the HMP, things like this. And we had to admit, sometimes it was a patient that, it was a Medi-Cal patient, right? That was going to be custodial.
Oh.
And live in that place, right?
Yeah.
But we had an open bed and we had to answer the question. And I know there was a means of check and balance there, right? We had local ombudsman, we had the Department of Public Health. It was they're all over our ass if, are you doing the admissions properly? Is there a similar mechanism in dialysis, Richard? Is anybody checking us?
No, I mean, you have people, the discharge planners are incentivized by getting the patients out of the hospital.
That's right.
And the way they get patients out of the hospital are having side deals with providers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate to say that, but that's just the honest truth.
What it
if it's
is.
a Sunday
For
and
transition
keep the patient-
services or what?
Well, case
To put 'em in
management and
increment.
discharge. Yeah. I mean,
Oh, their case management.
they have their local ecosystem, right, Richard? I mean, who's going to be able to provide the level of care, what's going to be best for the future relations. And I'm not talking me, right? But I'm talking about discharge planners. I've seen this happen in the hospital level. It's patients going there. There's no.
I gave him a box of donuts the day before, and all of a sudden I'm going to give you.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating, but that's kind of the.
I hope. I mean, is that exaggerate? Is that where the extent of the giving a box of donuts?
No, I mean, there are the big box companies that go in there and they wine and dine the discharge planners, and the patient has to be discharged because they get incentivized by getting the patient out of the hospital.
Lower bed days. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, my experience in running a nursing home, Rich will remember this. My first day, I took this nursing home over, and first day I was in the hospital, in the case management department. I didn't bring anything, Richard, except for this.
Your charm and no hair.
Yeah, I brought that, and it was a thing of hey, we're a nursing home, we're local, shake hands and make friends, right? And how can I help you? And Richard, it's hey, we can't discharge these patients. I said, we got you, right? That actually means a lot in this world, doesn't it, Richard?
If you actually take patients that are trouble patients or have some sort of, extra diseases or hepatitis B or whatever it is, and you take them, they're going to funnel patients to you.
That's right.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, my biggest victory in that regard, Richard. I walked over. Well, I didn't walk over. I went over to a hospital in Orange County, did the same thing, met with case management, said, "How can I help you? This is who we are. How can I help you?" I have a 600-pound patient with multiple bed sores, cannot get out of bed. We cannot discharge, but we have to. And her 400-pound husband is on floor number 2. We need to get them both out. So I literally took 1,000 pounds
Half ton.
of patients,
Half a ton.
and it created this really strong synergy. There was no donuts, Richard, but on our side, when we brought them into the home,
They made donuts for the patients to sit on.
Holy shit, man! I did not realize what I got myself into because the amount of food we had to buy for these individuals. And by the way, you know, I went and talked to the patients myself, and it's like, hey, I'm going to need you to go through rehab exercise. You promise, you know, you're going to do it, right? Yep. You know, just get me and my husband, and day number one.
And by the way, the dialysis chairs are only up to 400.
Yeah, so bariatric, all that, yeah.
So we can't even take the patient
Yep.
without tearing up the chair.
Yep.
So
Yep. So there's a lot of that going on as well. It's like just, you know, survival, really, of being able to get the bed clear, making sure that there's a safe discharge. I agree with you, Richard, that there's a lot of cherry picking going on in all facets of healthcare that really lend towards our top and bottom lines, right? And for me, like that example I gave you, I only thought about the top line. I didn't realize that it was really gonna
Impact the bottom.
oh my God, it was a massive expense. And then guess what? We still needed discharge from the skilled nursing facility as well, which that was a horrible.
And that's why value-based
experience.
care, I don't know if it's the end-all be-all, personally. I think it's a creative way to help with over the utilization, medical loss ratio. I think there's preventative. I think there's more holistic approaches.
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree.
mental health is a big thing. I mean, Nate here, he's a nurse in the behavioral health sector. I know that you've seen many things, and I'm pretty sure there's cherry picking, but I really appreciate this conversation because I think on a human level, we should have access to healthcare. It's just not in the structure that is it's not conducive in America
Yeah.
for everyone
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yep.
And so I think technology personally is a way to not be the end all be all goal. I think it's a part of many components. Primary care is being defragmented. Telehealth is like a big thing.
Yep.
I definitely appreciate how I've learned from you, Michael, about nephrology and ESRD. I know it's a small population, but in terms of reimbursement for Medicare, it's huge.
Yeah.
So people want to get into it for margin,
Right.
not realizing it is a lot of work and there's a human being here.
And Richard's talking about the margin here, that it can
Yeah.
be damn challenging. I mean,
Right.
it really.
Oh, no,
we've-
Top line, it looks big, but
Yeah.
to your point, bottom line, the
Yeah.
actual care that it takes, yeah.
I mean, I see it, Richard. We got angels on earth in the form of groups like that you represent. You know, like when you talk about losing $70 on a treatment, these are angels, right? They're providing charity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're sacrificing.
Absolutely. And I appreciate everything she's saying. I agree with her. But there's been legislation recently that actually has basically shut down a lot of value-based care,
Yeah.
ACOs.
Yep.
And so a lot of what the same guy I talked to today, he said a lot of the people that went into it have not, now they're getting out of it because
Yeah.
they lost their shirt.
Yeah. A lot of the players in
Now,
our end
I don't
are
know what they
jumping
did.
out.
I don't know how they did it, but if you're losing your shirt, what's the solution? I mean,
Do you consider
like
Medicare
you said,
Advantage value-based?
No, this is the first time I've talked about holistic, or that may be another avenue to help these patients.
Yeah.
I don't know, but the industry is not doing it right.
Yeah.
And if you're losing your shirt,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to create an access to care issue eventually.
Yeah, and speaking too with the technology, it's really weird because it's like at the same time we're moving fast but moving slow, right? So technology allows us to grow exponentially, right? Like we can just
Scale.
take off. Scaling's way different, all that stuff, because now we have machine learning and all that stuff. But then you still have to provide the hands-on, right? Which is vastly different because the hands-on, it's right there. It's in real time,
Yeah.
all the time, versus something that's working 24/7 in the background that you just check on, whatever, make sure your servers are good. But it's allowing it to move fast and move slow. And I think that we're at this weird transitionary point where we are trying to implement technology into larger healthcare systems. But in implementing that, there is a learning curve for everyone involved. And that's from the top to the bottom, right? Top line, bottom line, everywhere in between.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's very much interesting to see where it's going, and it's very much a good learning experience, like a good case study, I guess you could say.
yeah, AI is wonderful. I mean, I agree. But it's all data driven.
Yeah.
It's not physically touching the patient. It's not physically having a
Speaking to my
conversation
heart.
with somebody. It's not
Yeah.
physically the human part of the connection of what we need. So there has to be some connection between AI and having a physical, like, Mr. Smith, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
and
happened
that's
today?
the nurse or the MA or the human who needs to be there interacting with the AI and the information and the insights that are specific to that particular patient. This is me.
AI is just a tool for the human.
That's it.
Right.
It's like my phone, but we've kind of made it this. Like we're like worshiping AI, like it's gonna solve everything. But really, all it does is provide us information so we can do things more informed and maybe quicker.
Yeah.
But it should not, and I hope it does not take over the human experience to what you're speaking to, because at the end of the day, we're here for this podcast because of a connection.
Right. Yeah.
Because of a
Right.
human connection that no algorithm, and I've spent over a decade in AI, in the deepest of trenches of AI, and I have such an appreciation for the human experience, even more so, because we are much more intelligent than machines.
Yeah.
We really are.
Absolutely.
And
But if the human doesn't ask the right question, you're never going to get the right answer.
That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
And that's
Very
the
true.
learning. That's the machine learning. And
Hey, I want to give a chance, guys. We've ran a really long podcast. Thanks for
Oh,
being
yeah.
patient with me, guys. And I think it's been a
Sorry,
great
Mike, I
dialogue.
just had to jump in.
No, I'm great. I'm glad
is
you
awesome.
jumped
It's
in,
great to
Richard.
meet
I've been waiting for you to jump in. I'm waiting for you to be across the table from me, to tell you the truth. And I'd love to introduce all of you guys since we've kicked off here. We're going to be a family. Keith Edwards is actually from Columbus, Ohio, and I want to give this guy a shout out because he's a wonderful guy. He's a registered nurse. He's focused in nephrology. He's a strong advocate for all the things that we're really. The reason we're talking is because we care, and I know Keith cares as well. So for those of you who are still with us, I do want to give a chance, and Paco, keep an eye for me if you can. Any questions that you'd have for this special group? We've got a licensed vocational nurse entrepreneur here. We've got an entrepreneur. We learned about the passion that put you behind, like the first entrepreneurship tract of floral. Richard, I don't know if you caught this, but Kessiah is a florist. Is that the right word? Florist?
yeah, as a florist, and before that, I was in health tech,
Right.
health IT.
So I would say, but was that your first entrepreneurial?
Yes.
Yeah, florist. And
Like official, other than selling rocks and stuff
that's
like
right.
that.
Yeah, selling candy bars that they bought.
He does that have that.
I bought
that
the candy
vibe
bars.
for
I
me.
just walked out with them.
I actually feel like I'm calm right now. I'm like, she has that
got a-
calming
She
perspective.
does
So
have that effect on people. Keep them
calming?
Yeah, she's very
just
genuine person.
Just a very, I don't know. You're when you meet people, you always you're just very passionate about what you do, and it's
Yes.
very. It's not like people are just pounding on you. So
No,
Yeah.
no. So any questions from the audience? Again, and then Richard Vanderplas, and he might have maybe undersold himself a little bit, but when I think about like the starting point in my career, this guy was already a leader. We're almost the same age. Maybe I'm a couple years older. Right, Richard? You're supposed to be like,
He's
no.
like calling out your age.
Yeah,
You should
no.
never do that.
He might be I don't know. Maybe we're the same. He's younger at heart,
I
for
don't
sure.
know what I don't know. What am I? 57.
But I mean, this guy was a leader when I got really kind of I got seasoned a little bit in the organization. I worked in the organization that he was running. I watched him build that organization into a really large organization that kind of, M&A activity. He's a thought leader. He's like serves on boards in these different professional associations, and he can pick up the phone call and really, trigger an initiative with one phone call. It's somebody that I've sought mentorship on different levels, and as you can tell, when he wants to say something, he's going to say it, and he's never pulled a punch on me, Richard. I love you for that. Like he called me just before the podcast, by the way. And I was like, hey, the camera, and But I love this guy, Richard. I cannot extend the thanks that I have to you for all the years, but tonight is, to me, a memorial because I've been telling you I want to get you on here because you got things to say. You can interact with people, and you don't have to agree with them to do it on a cordial basis, right?
Especially on a podcast.
So anybody, questions. This is kind of the final call while we're waiting on cues there. Nate, man, it's been like super cool meeting you.
Yeah, likewise.
I don't think she was lying about all the good things she said. I do see the entrepreneur in you. I do see that the things that you guys are doing together, like there's no way you're going to fail because you refuse
Thank you.
to
Yeah,
fail,
I
you
think
know?
that's a good point.
And that's big to me. Is like, Richard known me a long time, and like I'm
Yeah,
not.
I'll even tell you a story. I don't even know your background. I mean, literally, I was 5 minutes. But Michael was a young, aggressive. I don't know if I can cuss on the podcast, but I'm
You
gonna
can
say
Yes.
absolutely
an asshole.
cuss.
We got the ground rules. You can
Just don't
cuss.
call me a son of a.
Okay. Yeah, he was an asshole. He was very aggressive.
Oh, you were an asshole?
He was
Where?
he was
Hold on, where?
he still
Or
is,
was?
but he was a hothead, and we've had many conversations. And the reason he was like that, he was so driven, and he didn't realize how to rein it in. He was
Yeah.
riding the horse at 100 miles an hour when sometimes you have to actually run the horse a little slower and get to where you want to go. You know, it's kind of one of those things like there's a joke out there, and I won't even get into it, but you know, two cows on the hill and you know, whatever. But the fact
I know the
that
joke.
I don't know
think
the
we all know
joke.
the
I
joke.
want to know the joke.
Yeah, no, you got to tell it because
You gotta
like
tell
now
it.
I need a trigger. Like I remember,
I
it, but
told my
don't.
witch doctor story. You got to tell the joke.
you guys can tell. I don't want to tell it because I have a lot of people that are going to watch the podcast.
Long story short is take your time.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the young bull ran down and did what he could, and the old bull took his time and made sure he took care of all the women that were down below. So you have to take your time.
Take your time.
Yeah, yeah.
So the fact that, and Mike and we've had many, like, I guess sometimes heated conversations, and one of my staff members hated his ass, and he didn't understand why.
Big time.
And I had to tell him why, and we worked through stuff, and he got a lot of deals that on his own. It had nothing to do with me. But we always realize, like, sometimes you have to just, you know, you have to take baby steps, and sometimes you have to take 2 steps back to go 3 steps forward. And
100%.
I think finally he figured it out. He finally like, oh, and but he's like a Jamaican. He has 15 jobs, man. He's just like,
I feel like
Yeah.
all of us at the table.
Yeah.
I don't have 15, but I
Yeah,
have a
you
good
know,
amount.
Richard, that's probably going to be a very common characteristic of people you see sitting at this table. Is like, I mean, you watched yesterday.
I did.
Same DNA, like go go go. Like I will not fail. I will not fail. You know, yeah, I'm gonna
Make
get
it work.
I'm gonna run into a wall sometimes, you know, and I'm glad I had friends like you, Richard, that are willing to
That's
like
awesome.
say, hey, yeah, you effed up, man.
Yeah.
You know,
No, and
it's
you
gonna
need
take you
that.
10
You gotta
years
have
to get out of
those.
that
You
one.
gotta
have
have.
those.
You gotta have. Not everyone can be like a yes person.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta.
I appreciate it. And I was in New Orleans, and I'll just tell this quick story. I was in New Orleans last week to do a survey at one of our facilities because we're getting ready to be inspected. And went into the restroom, the staff restroom, and it was clogged. I'm not sure what happened. I don't really care. But I went and grabbed a plunger. And I'm a 6-figure guy, but here I am plunging the toilet. But you know what? I told the staff, I will never ask you to do anything that I won't do myself.
Yeah.
And that is my
Fucking love it.
mantra to from 40 years ago. I that's just the way I feel.
I've seen it.
Are you an entrepreneur, Richard? Because you have that heart. Like
Oh, no,
roll
yeah.
up your sleeves. I'll mop the
I've got-
floor.
yeah.
I'll scrub a toilet.
He can
Because
tell you what I have. But
Yeah, he's
I'm a part owner of a bar. I've got
And also, you have a very strong name. Very
Richard.
strong.
Yeah, that's a very strong name.
yeah. Well,
let's start with
and you
Nate.
know what? The Dutch, you know, Vanderplas. So Vander is always a Dutch name from of the. So Van always means of, and
Oh.
Der means the, or de means the, and then the last part of their Dutch name means where their family came from. So Plas is actually, I guess, pond or
Pond?
water. It's
Oh.
yeah, pond or water. It's kind of
Oh.
translated to.
You know, it's weird.
So
I was
Randy
thinking that
Camp-
was a Dutch name. So, you know, I just went to Holland, right? I told you that?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, yeah, but I just got back from Dubai, so I outdid you.
Did you like Dubai?
Dubai was amazing,
It's nice, huh?
and then we went to the Maldives for 5 days after that.
Oh man, that's
Yeah, a nice trip.
nice.
Nate, let's
When
do
you're 12 hours on the other side of the world,
let's do a round table. Last comment. Nate, how old are you?
43.
What?
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
youngsters.
That means
No,
I'm,
but look
that
at
means
like
I'm
longer.
older.
We're not that far off, and he looks like 20 years younger to me. Son of a.
It's the
Longer too.
Filipino.
Less than years.
It's the Filipino blood.
Jeez.
Don't
All
ask my
right.
age. Don't ask my age.
I will not. All right. So, advice from today: clinical hero.
I would love to hear that.
You know, clinical hero, and you're on. I don't know if this is 2.0 for you, or if it's part of the 1.0, but like, what's the important factor from coming from this clinical person to like what we're seeing here that is like really bringing value beyond one person at a bedside now? Like your impact is massive with what you guys are doing at Direct Field. So best advice on, you know, how to make that transition, and what are you going to do to support your CEO in all of these initiatives as that clinical quasi entrepreneur?
Well, I guess the best way to put it's already been put, where it's, act locally, think globally. Do what you can do in your place, but also have, the mind to think that these ripples or these things you do will have ripples, and how those are going to affect other people. So that would be my advice. And in just all of this is just, really think about it that way. Please act locally, but also think past that, because, we don't want to be short-sighted.
Is it a dream past that? Do you have to dream big, or you have to like manifest big?
Ooh. I wouldn't say you have to neither dream nor manifest big, but you definitely have to have a big creativity. Like what did Einstein say?
Imagination is more important than knowledge.
Yeah, something like that, right? So you have to have that creativity and that imagination, and also that work ethic that pushes it too.
I'm going to have one last thought on that.
All right,
before we
Mike,
go.
I'm going to jump in. Where are you going to be in 5 years? I want to know.
Who, me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I love it.
You know what? I'll be completely honest right now. I haven't seen the forest through the
You
trees
should
yet.
be. That we're on.
Yeah. Well, fair enough.
was the-
Fair enough. I haven't seen the forest through the trees yet. I'm still looking at it, and that's just being vulnerable with it. Like, I'm still looking at the trees, have not yet seen the forest, and that's not a bad thing. It's just
No.
it's just I want to put in this groundwork first. I want to plant the seeds. I want to see the saplings grow, and then I want to be able to reassess, because in life I've learned you have to pivot. And so I can say I want to be somewhere in 5 years from now, and then in a year and a half I could be like, oh shit, I fucked up. That was the wrong way of thinking. I have to recalibrate, reassess, critically think, and then give a new assessment, a new judgment, and put that out there. So, not to brush aside the question, but in all honesty, I haven't seen the forest through the trees yet.
No, I look, I'm going to tell you one thing.
I like that. I
And
like the
Mike
honesty.
and Mike can actually co-sign for me, is sometimes you have to take a step down or pivot to the left or the right and do something that may not be comfortable, but it's always going to make you better. And the forest through the tree thing means that you need to actually start exploring, because to me, you haven't figured out which direction you want to go. And in life, there's always a why. You either take a right or a left, and you have to figure it out. And I appreciate your honesty and understanding that, people always like, where are you going to be in 5 years? Oh, I want to be that. No, that's not an honest answer. So
I can't
appreciate
wait
your
till
answer.
you ask me that.
Well, I
Richard,
can give
'cause
you an
got it.
honest answer then. In 5 years, this has always been my answers ever since I was a kid. I want to be happy, and that's like super generic, but it's very true. Wherever I'm at, I want to be able to be happy in it. I want to be able to say, like, I'm okay with this. This is great.
Yeah.
Like, perfect. Yeah. So
Well, good.
in 5 years,
I'm
I guess
glad I'm glad I opened the can.
You
Ah,
sure
love
did,
it, love
and
it.
I love it.
Kessiah, I got to go with a similar route. So,
Okay.
you know, it was what, 3 months ago, maybe, that we chatted. I know it was on the plate at that time. You got such a massive portfolio of opportunities now, and what you guys can offer in the solutions. You've got new partnerships. What is the ultimate impact that Kessiah Abaniel and your leadership within Direct Fill, what is the impact of
Dialysis.
Direct Fill? So the impact, I mean, I know where the passion is. I know where
Yeah.
it comes from. It's very evident, but what are we going to do? Let's go with the same timeline, 5 years, because Direct Fill is you.
Yep.
So where are we going to be at 5 years?
So I'll answer that in two ways. So I'll answer it within the walls of Direct Fill and then beyond in terms of the marketplace, well, starting with the US and hopefully global. So within the walls of Direct Fill, within 5 years, I want to create an economy for my staff. I want to validate their time that they invest in the company. I want to be able to pay their mortgage,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It does.
That's what keeps me up at night right now, as well as like partnerships. So that's a focus for me in the next 5 years within the walls of Direct Fill. So beyond Direct Fill, U.S. marketplace, and even beyond, say, UK and where else is, I want to leverage the foreign marketplace, starting with the Philippines, and I want to augment not just nurses. So that's where we pivoted with the Direct Fill is nurse practitioners, MAs. I want, if I could have, since you're asking me, the mindset of the average American to be open to foreign workers, the USCIS to be open with a faster route to bring in foreign workers to help our health system.
Yeah.
Because I think that's going to adjust reimbursement rates. I think that's going to help level the playing fields with these weird kind of fee schedules and this disparities between health plans when we have enough health workers. I'm very passionate about that. We brought on other offerings to bring short-term revenue so that we can stay in the game of staffing, to be honest.
But that's the focus, or that's the vision.
The vision is to bring in foreign workers to the United States to help the healthcare system. And I think that's going to be proliferated throughout, like, globally.
Yeah.
That, honestly, in the next 5 years, focused on Direct Fill. And also to be happy, you know, like, I wake up every day now accountable to the people, like my brother, Tina, she wasn't able to make it. The folks encompassed within Direct Fill is I want this to be meaningful to them. And then when we start moving workforce into the United States, I want it to be meaningful to them. And we happen to be half Filipino. Those are our people. I want them to succeed.
You know, we had big conversations about this. I mean,
Does that make sense?
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
wraparounds and all that stuff is needed. I mean, it's hard to come from another country, even with the noble cause of finding a good job, serving people, being able to remit money back home. It's a scary damn thing, and it's a culture shock for a lot of people. Richard, we're gonna pick on you, man. I kind of know where you're at today.
I just want some lumpia or pancit.
Wait, what did you say? Lumpia or what?
Pancit.
Pancit. Oh, lumpia or pancit, yeah.
So I'm sure Richard knows his way around a Filipino.
And I would
what do you
just
call
like
it? Moodle or
I just
boodle?
listened to her real quick, Mike, and you need to get with an immigration attorney to O1 visas, you know, HB visas, H1. You know, there's a lot of visas that you.
Yeah, you're right. And I've talked to a few. And so there's like the J1,
Well,
there's the TN,
I have a
the
little
H1B.
connection, so if you,
I would love to talk to you.
Mike can
Yeah.
pass on my
Yeah,
information.
we'll put you guys in contact. It's a problem that we
not
need.
going
You know,
away.
we all need to take
Mike
a
and
look
I
at.
talked about this all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Richard, give
And
it.
every Filipino that I know that works for us, half the money they make, they ship back to the Philippines for their family. So
Yeah, we could get on that too. I mean, yeah, I remember.
that whole conversation. Anyway.
I remember
All right, go
working in
ahead,
the
Mike,
field.
I'm sorry.
I just gotta say this. I remember working in the field and kind of going like, man, so and so takes a 1 month vacation every year, and then going like, yeah, but they do like 2 years of work compared to the other employees. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give them that month and be good with it. Richard, you know, you are a seasoned pro. This is personal. You know, your presence in this healthcare arena, specifically in the dialysis field. With where you're sitting today, I think I'd be remiss to not ask, like, what are we missing from the workforce? Because you've seen this workforce, like you said, that used to have to do everything manually. Now it's got the technology in their hand. Used to be like, I remember the days when he's talking about where his colleague didn't like me. I was just trying to help them get more people. And it was like, we don't need more people because we're good to go. But today the world's different, right?
Yeah,
So
it's a bit different.
like, what is your best advice for individuals that are coming into this healthcare arena, that are in this healthcare arena? What are we missing and what do we need to do better from a human being perspective, not the system perspective, but the human being perspective?
You know, Mike, I don't even know how to put this, but the integrity or the expectations for people coming in the industry,
Yeah.
there are a lot of young people and they're not focused on patient care generally. Not everybody, I'm just saying they're in it for a paycheck. And a paycheck is not going to be given until you work hard and actually get to where people are like you and me,
Yeah.
unless you bust your ass. And they want it day one. And I don't know how to make people realize that you're 22, you're talented, you come in and you want the world, you want the red carpet, you want everything in front of you. No, you need to bust your ass and work and get stuff done. We're here for the patients.
Yeah.
These people didn't choose to be on dialysis.
They have to.
They have to be on dialysis. They didn't choose to be diabetic. They're diabetic. They didn't choose to have hypertension, but they have hypertension. So help them. Don't try to just say, pay me more because I actually know how to like type on a computer or stick a needle. Be passionate about what you do.
Yeah.
And until people realize that, then it's never going to change. And the fact that the market has been so basically diluted because people are hiring people that shouldn't be hired.
Yeah.
And we have people out there that are just like, oh, well, you know, somebody's flipping a burger. They're making $20 an hour in LA, so I need to make 30.
Yeah.
Nurses are like,
Oh,
well, if
the
they make
prevailing
30, I
wage,
want
yeah.
50.
Yep.
But they have no passion for what they're doing. These are about patients. We are literally, this was my dad.
Yeah.
This was my dad years ago. And I know that you're affected too, Michael. And like, until they actually feel that way,
Yeah.
I don't even want them working for me.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anyway, so
I agree. No,
sorry,
that was great,
my
Richard.
No, I love it.
You,
I
you
love
kind
the
of stole
passion.
my thunder too, Richard, because I got to tell you, like, my sign off for tonight, when I think about what's needed, we're aligned. It's, you know, I asked a question a few weeks back, like, you're going to hire somebody in the healthcare field, right? Which Richard has probably hired thousands of people.
you actually got a tear out of me, Michael. So there you go.
That means that we're talking about the right things, man.
Yeah,
And
100%.
when you think about like who you're hiring out there, right? Technically, is the technical side more important, or is the work ethic more important? And I think you just told us, Richard, like you can't teach that side. Like there's something missing today. I don't know what it is. It's easy to make money in certain ways. It's hard work in our field, all of our fields, to where when you look at the amount of money that's being made, hey, I could do it somewhere else, and I don't have to have the level of responsibility, or I'm not going to be thinking about stuff, 40 years into my career that are tugging on my heart when I'm flipping burgers or packaging shit at Amazon, right? So, like, I think we need more people to share that message, Richard, that, this is somebody, no matter what we're doing in healthcare. And if we put it as if it was my somebody, like how would I want to be treated, or how would I want them to be treated? Whether it's you or it's the person you love more than yourself, like act a little bit differently, and we might actually think about the jobs we're getting into and call them professions instead of a paycheck. You know, this is my profession, this is my career, this is my calling.
I like that. Yeah.
We should be providing therapy, not just treatment, not just procedures, not task oriented,
Connection.
but outcome oriented. You know, and in the case that Richard and I live, it's a chronic illness that doesn't go away, that you're going to need to see me for the rest of your life until either I quit, I die, or you quit, or sorry, you get a transplant, or you pass away. Like our relationships with dialysis patients are so many touch points and so long that, you know, we have such a massive impact on their quality of life. And I think in areas like you, when you're working in mental health, very similar, right? The contact is there, so the quality of life, the behaviors and the management of behaviors is really impacted by consistency and work ethics,
and also learning how to build that working relationship.
Yeah.
Because everything you do with someone else, it's relationship based, you know. So whether it's any discipline in the world, you still have to have that relationship. So
Agreed.
Yeah.
Guys, I got to turn you on to something if you're not turned on to it already. Richard, you're up. So I talked about it yesterday, and I'm just so inspired by it. Have you guys seen this movie, Skywalkers, or this film, Skywalkers?
No.
Never
I
heard.
heard the whole. Yeah, no, I have not seen it. But
So I'm
I
just
heard
gonna-
your dissertation.
Just gonna hit it again because I think I'm stuck on it right now. But like you guys are in this mode where, and Richard too, you've been in that entrepreneurial phase where shit's scary, man.
Yeah.
And
It's scary.
if
It's
you
rough.
let the fear stop you, you will never realize your full potential, right? So that's what I took from that Skywalkers movie. You got to check it out. There's these two lovebirds. They climb shit that should not be climbed, and do stuff that should not be
They
done.
skywalk?
I'm not promoting to go skywalking, okay? But it's a circus saying that true potential is on the other side of fear. And I applaud you both for taking the leaps, Richard, the leaps that you've taken, for being able to speak out against the grain
Yeah.
a lot of times. That can be scary.
Yeah. But people need
but
that.
I told Michael the other day you got me in trouble, and he said why.
There we go, Skywalker's on the screen. Yeah, what
There you
was
go.
it? How did I get in trouble?
So, we as technicians always back in the day been called patient care technicians, and Michael and a couple other my colleagues, every one of our technicians have to be certified. So we've tried to change the narrative to certified hemodialysis technician, not a patient care technician, because even in his industry that he was involved in, they have patient care people.
Yeah.
They may not be certified, they're just patient care. And so I went up against a nurse literally 2 days ago and got into a joust, I guess. I don't know what it was. And
A spirited debate.
yeah, and
He said, yeah.
Michael is that person, and I said, your ass got my ass in trouble because I went down your road of being that person.
The bulldog?
And yeah, just like I don't recognize the technicians. I was the 101st technician in California back in 1982 that was certified.
Wow.
I
That's legacy right there.
am proud of what I've done, and
That's awesome.
recognize us just like you recognize an RN, like you recognize a CNT or a PA or an NP or an MD and by the way, medical, they're practicing medicine and they're really practicing because
Yeah.
a lot of them don't even know what the hell
That's
they're
right.
doing. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation.
It is, and that's a whole epidemic in itself, where it's this compartmentalization and this like hierarchy. It's like we're all doing the same thing. Like, can we all just like figure it out?
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
But the credentials kind of direct.
Yeah.
And I don't care. I have credentials. I don't put a lot of them, and Michael will tell you, even on my badges, every time we go to meetings, there may be CHT.
Yeah.
Because I'm proud of it. Other than that, I don't put anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done a lot, but I don't need to prove anything to anybody.
Yep.
I could be a bottle washer in a restaurant. I don't care.
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
He
to me.
has it. He
Acronym
has
soup.
It. Yeah.
Acronym soup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Guys.
Do you remember who was that? Who was that, Michael? We used to go to those meetings, and that guy had like 15 ribbons on his badge. Like,
Oh gosh, that was probably me. No, I was
I
kidding.
was like,
That was you.
It was in his hair. He used to have.
No, like they do. They want. Oh, are you this? Are you this? And like I don't want to do
yeah,
that either.
he put like 15 ribbons on his badge, and I'm like,
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
It doesn't matter. But people,
Morales, that's
there's
good.
certain people that are very title driven, and I could give a
And
Yeah.
such is
Flying
life,
F.
though. And
Yeah.
such is life, to be honest. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like that in corporate, too. Like, what school? I mean, I've been in rooms with, like, a bunch of Ivy Leaguers, and I'm like, the
that
least.
means a lot in certain rooms, right?
And it does, but then you have to look at the outcomes.
Yeah.
Right.
I think medical device sales in hospitals, Ivy Leaguers, right?
Yeah.
Hey guys, this has been a really spirited
Yes.
conversation.
We'll go all night.
Yeah, Paco's probably like, man, can I go home?
Get out of here.
I'm good.
sorry, Paco.
I'm good, Richard.
But I want to thank you all.
You edit out that other part. We
Yeah.
won't talk about that other part.
Yeah, just that one. I want to thank our guest Nate,
Thank you.
Kessiah, Richard for giving us the surprise finally. And again, the table's open for you when you want to come over here and sit across it, and
I can't.
we can have as spirit as a debate or conversation as you want, man.
We've had many conversations in a corner booth in a bar somewhere, and
We got to start recording those, man.
yeah, we should. Literally, we should have a camera.
Yeah.
Paco, make it happen.
Yes, sir.
Hey, to all of you who joined us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, I think that's where we're at tonight, and then YouTube. Looking forward to the next episode. We will cut up everything that we shot today. You'll see some releases soon. Yeah, literally cut out a couple parts here today. But we'll notify everybody that's here with us, so you
please
guys
give
can
my
share with your
info,
groups.
Mike.
We will. We definitely will.
Yeah, I definitely want to connect on the legal component
Yep.
and the different visa structures.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Hey, for Musings with Morales signing off. You all have a good evening. Stay safe, and look forward to the next podcast somewhere Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Have a good night, guys.
This episode has been brought to you by Dialysis Education Services.